All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to today's coverage of the Ride the Dent 200 at the Daytona International Speedway for this year's running of the ARCA series at Daytona. Welcome in, everyone. Whether you are new or returning viewers of the channel wondering what this is another live commentary stream. We do these every NASCAR race weekend for Truck Xfinity Cup races. And this weekend only, of course, as we usually do during Speed Weeks as of the last few years, the ARCA Series opener at Daytona as well. The big race is tomorrow, but we've got a couple of big ones here today at the Speedway. We have the ARCA race right now, the Xfinity Series race at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're also going to be live for Cup Series final practice for the Daytona 500, which will actually be coming up immediately after this ARCA race before the Xfinity Series has their turn on the high banks at Daytona. Appreciate everybody tuning in here this afternoon. This is our fourth consecutive day of live commentary streaming on the channel through Speed Week. We had qualifying for the Daytona 500 Wednesday night, the dual races, of course, Thursday night for the NASCAR Cup Series, and yesterday's Cup Series doubleheader with their practice session, as well as the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race, where unfortunately Parker Kligerman had gotten DQ'd last night, and didn't even find out until this morning when I woke up, actually, that he had gotten DQ'd. Corey Heim was ruled the winner of that race. We are on ARCA's website for today's raw feed, I guess, if you will. Usually we would have NASCAR.com, and I think we're actually going to have quite a few names on one list without me having to scroll up and down the screen too much compared to NASCAR.com with their new raw feed and or live leaderboard, so that'll be nice. There's no names on there at the moment. Obviously, the race hasn't begun yet, and they don't even have the drivers in the cars. They still think we have to wait on the national anthem and all the pre-race festivities leading up to the start of the race. So live a little early here today, excuse me. Not tonight. I'm used to the night racing we've seen the last 3 days, but we are in broad daylight. Beautiful weather at Daytona today as well. 0% chance of rain all the way throughout this afternoon for the, obviously, ARCA race and everything going on at Daytona, essentially, for today's coverage. And hopefully tomorrow they can get the Daytona 500 in at its full race length, even with the lingering weather that we may see tomorrow. But that will be tomorrow, and we'll worry about that when we get there. But thank you for everybody tuning in. Shout outs to all of you waiting in the chat. There was quite a few people waiting before the start of this stream, so I greatly appreciate everybody that has been holding out for this one here today. This will be the third consecutive year we've done live commentary for the ARCA season opener at Daytona, and they put on some pretty good races the last couple of years, I will say. And I'm sure we will see more action-packed racing going on throughout this one as well. We'll turn it to trackside for the moment then. They must have did the national anthem before they went on the air.
Engines are fired. We're just minutes away from the ARCA.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that they didn't show the national anthem like they usually do. They could be waiting for the Xfinity race to start. Maybe they'll do that before then. But needless to say, we're about to go racing. We're a lot closer to the drop of the green flag than I was initially expecting. That interview I was looking at with Elio Castroneves when they first went on the air must have been from earlier in the day and not live. I didn't have the audio in my ear, at that point. Shout outs to Smithy251, Full Throttle Productions, Tom Newton, John Barber, Jesse Lloyd, Western Farmer, Eric Bergstrom. Thanks for tuning in. Dethrone 47, watching from Sweden. Got a lot of viewers from outside of the U.S. that I'm seeing in the chat right now. Frank Powers, welcome back. Movement on the Tyne, AJ Summers, Jack Pecker 911. Wish I could broadcast all the live footage of the race too. Unfortunately, I cannot. I mean, that would be the dream, would be to air the actual race while I'm doing commentary for it. Unfortunately, with the YouTube copyright reasons, the stream will get taken down immediately if I try to do that. But I will do the best to my ability as usual, and you'll get to listen to some of the TV broadcasts throughout the course of the stream as well during cautions, pit stops, so that way we get breaking updates as to what is going on throughout the course of the race, because I can't do all of it justice myself, but Back and better than ever yet again. Pretty good truck race last night. The duels were crazy, to say the least, on Thursday. Both of them, really. And then, yeah, 500 qualified Toyota for the first time ever, getting the pole for the Daytona 500. Just say Jack, please. I got it. I got you. Watching from Norway. Appreciate that, Mr. Kaepernick. Hopefully I said your name correctly. Definitely a lot of newer viewers that I haven't seen in here in a while, but greatly appreciated everybody. I'm still refreshing ARCA's website to get the live leaderboard, and I would imagine once the cars start rolling, we'll maybe have something. 80 laps is our scheduled distance today, 200 miles. The race for visual purposes for those of you in the US is on Fox. Big Fox, not FS1. This is the first race on local Fox in a long time for ARCA. But this should be a fun one. Any race at Daytona is fun. I mean, let's be honest. It's Daytona, baby. The 500 is tomorrow, 67th running of which. Usually we'd go through the starting lineup for this one, but I don't even have that for myself right now. So I'll log off of the leaderboard screen and we can go through the starting lineup for today's race to see where your favorite ARCA drivers are starting. We got a pretty stacked field in this one from racers from not even just the stock car racing ranks, but around the world. Obviously, a big name in this one, Cletus McFarlane. I'm sure a lot of people watching the stream are going to be very interested to see where he is going to be running all the way throughout the course of this race as well. But we'll go through that starting lineup again right here for the Ride the Dent 200. I almost mispronounced the name there. William Sawalich is going to be on the pole in this one. Obviously ran the truck race yesterday. Had a pretty stellar run, to say the least. Lawless Allen in the 20 will be on the front row as well. Sawalich obviously with the pole for Joe Gibbs Racing in the 18. And we've seen Lawless Allen have some pretty decent runs on super speedways in the truck series over last season. And obviously we'll see what he could do starting on the front row in the ARCA race. In row number 2 is going to be LeVar Scott and Isabella Robusto. Brendan Butterbean Queen back in the NASCAR ranks, this time at Daytona. And in the ARCA, starting inside of row 3, Jack Finch is going to be on the outside of that row. Thad Moffitt, a familiar name, obviously, in the stock car ranks, and has some experience at Daytona in trucks as well as the ARCA series. Will start inside of row 4. Cole Raz will be to his outside. Catherine Legg is going to be making, I believe, her Daytona debut as far as oval racing goes. Inside of row 5 for her start. Cody Dennison will be on the outside of row 5. Just outside the top 10, Jason White and Tamuka Koga will be in row number 6. Ed Papa, Alex Clubb in row 7. Bryce Hogberg and Tim Vaines in row 8. Michael Maples and Jeff Schofield will be in row number 9, and rounding out the top 20, Elio Castroneves making his oval points racing, I guess, technically debut. He did run the duels the other night, getting more track preparation, of course, for tomorrow's Daytona 500. Definitely the biggest name of any in this ARCA field today by way of motorsport ranks. Again, row number 10 for Castroneves. Andy Jankowiak will be on the outside of that row. He was a contender for the win in this race a season ago. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a strong contender in today's race also. Corey Day from the dirt racing world will be back in another stock car, this time at Daytona for the first time ever. He'll be on the inside of row number 11. Willie Mullins on the outside of that row. We've seen Willie in the ARCA series the last several years when we've been doing this stream. Jason Kitzmiller, another one of the contenders for the race win today, will be on the outside of row number 12. Caleb Costner will be on the inside. Becca Monopoly and Tim Richmond in row 13. Garrett Mitchell, Nolan Wilson in row 14. Ryan Roulette and Amber Balkin in row 15. Row 16 for Kyle Steckley and Craig Bracken. Sean Cord, Dale Quarterly in row 17. Row 18 for Braden Laster and Scott Melton. Eric Cardell and AJ Moyer in row number 19. And Hunter Deschel and Brian Dozit will round out our 40-car field. ARCA had a lot of entries for this weekend. In fact, I believe they had the most entries of any series. So great to see for the ARCA Menard series to get that kind of a pull. A stacked field, to say the least. This has to be the most stacked field we've seen in a long time in the ARCA series at Daytona. And we're starting to add some more prestige, obviously, back to this event, which is awesome for the racing world. Yodis Rule, thanks for tuning in. Zaxby the Third, also welcome to the stream. Don Key. Trying to shout out everybody. We got a lot of people in the chat already. Matthew Dorta Bruno, welcome in as well. Certainly airing a commercial, and I went right back, by the way, also to the live leaderboard, and it is now available. Glad I was able to get the starting lineup in when I did, because if I would have had just till now, till the drop of the green flag, I probably wouldn't have gotten through everything in time. Obviously, one of the fun things for me personally in doing these ARCA streams at Daytona every year is getting to learn maybe some of the new names trying to break their way into the NASCAR world that we don't typically see every weekend with the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup Series race streams that we do here on the channel. If you are new, definitely hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. Again, our first of 3 streams today, and this will be streams 5, 6, and 7 through Speed Week so far. Obviously, our main event for the weekend will be tomorrow's Daytona 500. We do live NASCAR streams every NASCAR race weekend for Truck Xfinity Cup races, as well as Cup practice and qualifying every weekend as well. And races that I do attend in person, albeit I can't do the live commentary for those races specifically, but we have at-track content. I do race highlight videos from the grandstands. Got to give you a point of view of what it's like to attend a NASCAR race from obviously the seat I'm in, and those are usually a compilation video from that said race, lasting about 20 minutes, give or take. Yeah, cool to see NASCAR collabing with him to get a live camera. They definitely know and are aware of the audience he is going to be bringing in this race. And I think that's a big reason, honestly, to why this race is probably on local Fox. I'm curious to see what the numbers are going to do for this race, viewership-wise. Harm Voss, thanks for tuning in. Mr. Yuck, welcome to the stream. I'll try to keep up with everybody the best I can. Once the race begins, it's going to be harder for me to shout people out, but see what we can do here. Chandler Sanderson, what channel is the ARCA race on? It's on local Fox. Big Fox for today. In the well, not the FS1 booth, I guess. In the Fox booth today, Jamie Little, who obviously called the truck race last night and will be doing the entirety of the Truck Series broadcasting on the lap-by-lap basis. Trevor Bayne, former Daytona 500 winner from the year 2011, also in the booth. And Phil Parsons, we missed him last night during the truck race, but he is doing today's commentary for ARCA at Daytona. Still riding around on the parade laps before the drop of the green flag for today's event. Who will take home a win at the World Center of Racing? It doesn't matter what series, what form of motorsports at Daytona, you win here, you are cemented with motorsports history. Seen a lot of racing here over the last month with the Rolex 24 at Daytona. We had full coverage of that. And that was kind of honestly a prelude to what we've seen for Speed Weeks, considering how much less of Speed Week or Speed Weeks that we have nowadays compared to what we used to have. And they will be going green this time as the lights are out on the pace car. There will be a slight delay for those of you watching live, obviously, compared to what I'm commentating. YouTube's about 30 seconds or so. So if you are watching live, do your best not to spoil what may be happening in the chat for those that are unable to watch visually. Pace car pulls the pit road, and William Sawalich will lead the field to the green. He is on the inside line of road number 1. Flag drops, and we are underway at Daytona for race day number 3 and day number 4 total for Speed Week. Pretty good launch for both cars on the front row. Pretty steady and even line. Double wide all the way through the field as they circuit through turns 1 and 2 for the first time of 80 here this afternoon. And again, Lawless Allen on the outside of the front row alongside William Sawalich, who will lead the opening lap of the race. 5 cars on the inside line riding the double yellow line, which is where the out of bounds is here at the Daytona International Speedway. More cars currently in the outside staying together. Not a lot of bump drafting going on down the back straightaway in the opening lap as all these teams still try to get a feel for how their cars are handling on this bright and sunny day at the Daytona International Speedway. Cars moving around, bobbing and weaving off the exit of turn 4. That was the trouble corner last night in the truck race. Several incidences for cars getting loose, both with contact and without contact in that corner throughout the course of the race, including coming to the checkered as well. Couple cars 3 wide in turns 1, a couple drivers getting hung out to dry. Mostly double wide down the back straightaway on lap 2. Lawless Allen was able to lead the first lap of the race, by the way, the last time by, from the second starting position. Sawalich fell back a couple spots before getting down to the bottom of the racetrack, as he currently rides in 4th on the double yellow line. Robusto and Finch both got around him as well. Lap 2 going to be led by Lawless Allen also. There will be a competition caution to refuel the cars and change tires for likely the only time today during live pit stop sequences at lap 40. And there will not be any changing of positions that will go on during that time period. That is a rule that ARCA implemented in their racing in recent years. But that is the only guaranteed caution that we will have. Lap car that lost the front of the field on the initial start, staying down around the double yellow line for the moment. Believe it is the 67. First 3 cars got around him single file on the outside, and they've slightly broken away from the front of the rest of the pack that is going double wide around the lap car. Although he was able to settle himself down on the inside line pretty quickly. Everybody picked him up in the draft, and they're gaining right back on the top 4 that branched away from the rest of the pack initially. Allen still leads lap 4, turns 3 and 4 now. Still that 4-car breakaway at the very front of the field. As they get to the exit of the corner, 1 car on the outside gets loose, overcorrects into the wall, and we got a couple cars around in the front stretch. Oh my goodness, the big one already. 23 hits massively into the inside wall head on as well. Several cars sliding through the front stretch crash with torn up sheet metal. 5 laps in, and we already have the big one here at Daytona. And it was towards the very front of the field, really. One of the cars in the outside line had gotten sideways off turn 4, where we saw in the truck race multiple times last night. Track conditions today probably even worse. In the daytime hours, track temps are obviously up compared to what we saw yesterday, and handling an issue early, sparking the big one. Didn't look like there was any contact that started it all. Sean Core with heavy damage. We get the list of names of drivers involved. Looks like Andy Jankowiak, one of the favorites to win this race in the 73, also taken out in the crash. Catherine Legg involved. Elio Castroneves had Thad Moffitt in the 46. Took one of the biggest hits in that crash. And I would not be shocked if we get a red flag here down the back straightaway, because the front stretch is absolutely blocked with debris and parked race cars.
Saw sideways. He's right there, middle of your screen. Behind you.
That was nasty.
25.
He just gets that little bit of run and tries to correct. He gets a little low. Instead of air on the left fender, got the car free. He corrected, and once he went up the track, that gap gets close.
That 23 car hit hard into the inside wall.
So many cars involved. For 82.
Oh,
He's going to get a piece of this. That's Dale Quarterly, the 4-car right there, sandwiching Andy J.
So many race cars taken out on lap number 5.
See Tim Richmond going down pit road doing a nice job avoiding this.
And you had just asked Jamie how different these cars are than trucks and Xfinity and Cup cars. No matter what you're driving, that transition, which is right where he hit, we go from 31 degrees down to 18 degrees almost instantly, and the car gets really light. So you have to be on guard, even when you're just riding. Sometimes the air hits the car just right, and it will step out like that.
We saw the same thing in the trucks last night. We saw single truck incidents coming off
Yep.
the turn 4, just got loose all by themselves.
Yeah, we talked about that already.
Riding on board, another look at it.
I think this is
Red flag is out.
Yeah, just almost got through it.
Significant contact with inside safer barrier.
And
She's watching what happened. So frustrating.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I talked to her yesterday. She was so excited. She did such a fine job this week too. In her practice session yesterday, the Michael Maples.
Remember that lottery ticket that said being in the right place at the right time, a little bit of luck? That's where it went wrong for a lot of these drivers here. Wrong place, the wrong time, nothing they could do about it.
Right now, you want to be up front. Would have avoided all of this calamity. 5 laps in here at Daytona. The cleanup continues, and we'll be back.
That probably took out at least a quarter of the field there. Not even joking either. I mean, that is no exaggeration. A lot of big and heavy impacts involved in the crash. We'll try to do the best we as far as who was involved. Some of the list of names that I could see on the bottom of the leaderboard right now are definitely involved in the crash, but because they had to park cars down the back straightaway, some are parked on the front stretch, I believe, with the red flag as well. Our leaderboard updates when the race leader gets to the start-finish line every lap, and they have not gotten back around to the front straightaway start-finish line since the crash that happened on lap 4. Stretching to lap 5, and again, red flag has been displayed already in the ARCA season opener at Daytona. 5 laps in, a gigantic crash. Nobody caught any air, so that's good. But definitely some heavy head-on impacts into the inside and outside retaining walls. And it all started when one car broke sideways off the exit of turn 4 on that outside lane, which has been Calamity Corner from last night's truck race and now obviously into the ARCA opener here today as well. Helio Castroneves, like I mentioned already, involved in the incident. I begin to think that Braden Laster was also involved. Thad Moffitt definitely had severe damage. He'll be done for the day. Sean Core was in it. Catherine Legg took a big hit. She probably took the worst hit of any of them. Tough break for her. Started up in the top 5. Eric Caudell, Ryan Roulette, also involved in the crash. Those are the guys that didn't even make it to lap 4 on the start-finish line, so they're probably done. Moffitt, Costner, Core, Legg, Caudell, and Roulette are probably out of the race. And there will definitely be several more that'll probably be done as well. I'll tell you what, Helio Castroneves has had a rough speed week. Luckily, with the provisionally still in the Daytona 500, but man, that crash early in the duel. And now caught up in this one. And that's the dangers of starting mid or back of the pack in case something like this is to happen. This isn't abnormal necessarily to have this big of a crash this early, but still shocking to say the least.
He delivers. And by Reese's. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's, not sorry. And we welcome you back to Daytona. Well, I know there was a lot of calamity, a lot of wrecked cars, but how about this Reese's sweet move of the race? It's our first nominee of the day.
Yeah, this is actually the lap before the incident. That's Dale Quarterly in the 4 car. Watch him get loose here. He gets kind of jammed up a little bit. Probably has to get on the brakes a little bit, but does a nice job holding onto that car.
Yeah, that's the exact same spot we saw the 11 go around just a lap later. And it's so easy, Jamie. You get fixated on the bumper in front of you, and you're not really looking around. And when they wiggle a little bit, you wiggle a lot. So you always got to be looking out front, looking ahead.
To see who is crowned the Reese's sweet move of the race. We are under a red flag.
Whose front bumper was just laying in the infield?
18 race cars here, all over the place. Cleanup continues after this.
We had part of somebody's chassis, it looked like, laying in the infield grass on the front stretch that they hadn't picked up yet. I wonder if somebody might have sawed that off because it looked like there were two cars that were legitimately glued together. The close-up cameras, I couldn't tell exactly who it was, but when they cut the brake the first time when the crash had initially happened, I had noticed that there were two cars basically stuck together. It's almost like all the foam that was taken out of the driver's side door of the one car, and you had a front bumper with, obviously, some roll bars, and other cars from the interior that were now on the exterior were basically wrapped and intertwined with the driver's side door. I do believe everybody that was involved in the incident has gotten out under their own power. I haven't heard anything, obviously, over the broadcast saying otherwise, so that is good to hear. Again, there were definitely some heavy impacts, and we'll, I'm sure, get some interviews at some point in time when we get drivers exiting the infield care center. The mandatory trip, of course, involved in any kind of an accident, especially like this. By the way, this is crazy that we have like 600 people watching an ARCA race live on the channel right now. Greatly appreciate that. Red flag for the lap 5 big one. We still haven't gotten a car count as to exactly how many drivers were involved in the crash. It's definitely double digits. I'm going to confirm that right away without even knowing 100% that it was. I mean, there were a lot of cars taken out of that crash. Some heavy hitters that were going to contend for this race win coming in that have in years past. Some of the bigger names caught up in the crash from the outside of stock car racing world. But we still have, obviously, some big names that still remain in the race in these early laps. Lap 4 and the massive one, not just the big one, but the massive one here in the ARCA season opener is upon us. The Ride the Dent 200. Red flag has been lifted. It looks like we are back to caution. Still waiting for Fox to come back from the commercial break at this point. We obviously have a lot of new people tuning in for the first time here. Greatly appreciate everybody that is watching. We have live commentary like this for every NASCAR race every weekend. Outside of races that I would go to in person, but needless to say, we still have content during that course of the weekend. Usually when I go to races, it's normally just the Cup race. So I will still be doing live commentary for, say, the truck and the Xfinity races throughout that weekend as well. I think the only ARCA race that I'll be attending this year would be the Bristol race weekend as well as Talladega. So if you are looking for more ARCA content on the channel, when we get those two races in, I'll have some at-track footage for you there. All right, I got to take a picture of this. Actually, I'm just going to pause the broadcast so we can go through the list of names caught up in the incident here at lap 4. So we had the number 3 of Willie Mullins, Dale Quarterly, Eric Caudell, Sean Core, Ed Papa, Cody Dedison, Thad Moffitt, Nolan Wilson, Amber Balkin, Catherine Legg, Andy Jankowiak, Corey Day, Elio Castroneves, Caleb Costner, and Michael Maples all collected in the incident. Not all those list of names are necessarily out of the race, but they were all involved in the crash in some way with contact from one another, maybe spinning to avoid the crash in a certain case. Let me count real quick. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 15, looks like, according to Fox. In their graphic here, we have 15 drivers collected in the accident. Wild stuff here at Daytona early on.
Jay, even if they can stay tucked in,
I think Castroneves is going to be fine.
They can still have a really good day. So if these teams can stay on it, keep the morale up, keep the motivation high, get the cars fixed back out, they got a chance of running well.
We walked through the garage after a race at Daytona. It looked like a race after Martinsville. Cars beat up.
Do whatever it takes to stay out there. So Elio, he just wants to get every lap in because he hasn't had much track time. He's racing in the Great American Race tomorrow. This is Elio's week so far. This was his dual race. Watch this.
Yeah, victim of circumstances here. Nowhere to go.
Wendy did not want that front row seat.
And this was literally his second
Duels for the Cup Series. And then second practice yesterday for the Cup Series also had a little bit of rain. Nothing much. Just kind of misted there for a little bit. Enough to warrant a caution, red flag, I guess, if you will. But they did get over 30 of their 50 minutes of practice in. And again, for them, they still have a 50-minute practice session coming up a little bit later on today as well. Appreciate, again, everybody that's tuning in. I know I say it a lot, but I greatly do appreciate it. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream. It helps it a lot. We have almost 600 people watching right now, and we have only 83 likes. So definitely hit the like button. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Again, this is the place to be for every NASCAR race weekend. Again, live commentary content just like this. Jeremy Frazier in the chat saying, what a mess. It was a mess. There's still cleanup to be had. We are back in lifted from red flag. We're under caution now, and we will sometime soon. The track isn't blocked anymore, so that's why basically we're done from the red flag racing. Lawless Allen was ahead of it all. He's led every lap from the start of the race. Initially qualified second. Isabella Robusto runs in the second place position. Our pole sitter, William Sawalich, is third. Cole Raz fourth. LeVar Scott in fifth. That rounds out our top five. Brendan Queen sixth. Jake Finch seventh. Jeff Schofield in eighth. Got some changing of positions, maybe some pit stops going on from ninth on back. I just noticed Jason Kitzmiller is now up to ninth, so he must have stayed out of the pits. He qualified mid-pack, so he somehow missed the crash. Garrett Mitchell, of course, Cletus McFarland, now up in the top 10 as he stays out of the pits. I know a lot of you guys watching him here today. Missed it. It's amazing to me, some of these drivers that qualified like right around 20th that I'm seeing in the top 10 now that completely missed that incident, because I don't know how anybody was able to get through the smoke, all the dust settling, the spinning cars that were literally everywhere, scattered not only across the track but going through the grass. Towards the entrance of pit road, we had a few cars crashing against one another. Again, 15 drivers in total were listed as involved in the incidents on Fox's detail of the graphic. And in just a short race, obviously depending on how many caution laps are going to get here, this is going to shorten things up quite a bit. Probably 20 plus minutes of real time into this one with the red flag. So it was the 11 car that had gotten loose, which triggered the incident. Overcorrected into the outside wall after having a bit of snappiness from the rear tires off the exit of turn 4. After that car crammed the wall, basically came back across the track, and there was nowhere for a lot of these other drivers that were innocent bystanders in the initial crash that were caught up. Worth noting as well that Tim Vaines and Alex Clubb, who were scheduled starts for this race, did not get to the green flag at the initial start, though Clubb is on the track now. We got our first interview.
As soon as the weight shifted back, or the weight went back under, it just went right to the wall. I didn't have any steering input at all. It was a very strange feeling. So I'm just glad everybody's all right, because that was a wild ride. It really was. It was kind of fun. It's kind of going to the field, you know, not touching anything because I roller coaster, but I hate it for everybody because I know a lot of people spend money on it, and you know, so do I. And it just didn't work out, and you know, I didn't really know what to do in that situation. I've never felt a weightless feeling, so I just hate it for my boy Caleb and a bunch of other people. So yeah, you can see it right here. Like, it just gets weightless right there and just turns into, as soon as the weight shifts, like the balance of the car shifted, it went right. So just hate it for everybody. I really do.
Thank you for your time. We're glad you're okay. Jamie?
Caitlin, I think it's
I've never heard anybody describe being involved in a big one at Daytona before as it was kind of fun. That is a first. Cody Dennison in the 11 is who you just heard from there. Again, had triggered the loose race car that started the melee off of turn 4. And again, that is something that we've seen very common, and they were talking about it over the truck broadcast last night, Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano specifically in great detail, as to how much aging this track has gone on since its last repave, which took place in 2011. Even though harsh winters necessarily aren't a thing at Daytona, 15 years worth of asphalt has been at the forefront of this Daytona International Speedway surface, and maybe one day we will return to that form of the 2000s NASCAR racing that we saw here with the very out of control cars on a weekly basis. We're already kind of seeing that this weekend.
The replay, I just got tagged in the right rear, tried to make it down pit road, and then I got hit again. So not much you can do. I had a really great car, thanks to the SPS guys, because the car was fast and we were just trying to survive and hang out until the last 20 laps. But that plan didn't go according to what we were trying to do.
I know it was an early exit for you from the race, but this isn't your first foray into NASCAR. How enjoyable was the experience until it was cut short?
Man, I was having so much fun up until then. The team were awesome. I had a really fast car. And I had a smile on my face. It's like a renewed sense of vigor coming into racing after having done it for so long, and really looking forward to my stock car debut here. And unfortunately, that happened. So I'm just gutted. I just really wanted a decent shot at it.
Well, thank you for your time. We're glad you're okay, guys.
And it's so hard for some.
It's Catherine Legg you just heard from, who had probably the most vicious hit of any that was involved in that crash. Brooke left essentially to try to steer clear and missed the carnage in front of her. She got tagged from behind and had a beeline for the wall towards the entrance of pit road. But good to hear that she is okay physically. All right, well, lights are out on the pace car. Let's try this again. Luckily, with the red flag, we actually didn't lose too many laps due to caution there, about 5 or 6 of them. Green flag is back in the air. Lap 10 of 80 here in the ARCA season opener at Daytona. Lawless Allen, who restarted in the lead, was on the outside lane of the front row. Double wide restart all the way. Though no choose rule in effect for the ARCA series compared to what we see on the Truck, Xfinity, and Cup side. Allen leads on his way through turns 1 and 2. And is all clear off the exit of the corner. Stayed clear all the way through 1 and 2 as the cars still get the speed down the back straightaway. More cars on the inside line now than what we saw in the initial start. About 5 cars up high on the outside, still trying to get that lane to work. We saw the outside work to great effect through not only the duels on Thursday, but the truck race yesterday. Seemed like as the race went on, that became the preferred lane. Pretty even right now with more cars in the bottom, but the outside is still taking on strong with some good cars up there. Allen continues to lead every lap of the race as he leads the first green flag lap following the restart this time. Raz has moved his way up to second. Robusto falls to third. Brennan Queen fourth, and William Sawalich rounds out our top 5. Lap 11 off the exit of turn 2. Quite a few drivers hanging out outside of this lead pack, buying their time and maybe awaiting another potential crash. Definitely not surprised that we see a little bit more steadiness and not as much double wide racing all the way through the field. Yeah, we know that we're still guaranteed that caution at lap 40 as well. Part of the problem, it wasn't even that they were racing too aggressively off the start. It was just one driver getting loose towards the front of the pack, which triggered the incident. Just a typical racing product that you would see at a Daytona or a Talladega Superspeedway. Atlanta now, obviously, with their repave and reconfiguration as well. Dozen laps in. Allen's held clear for the most part on that double yellow line since the restart. Top 3 are single file on the bottom, double wide from 4th on back. Off the exit of turn 4, one car clips the apron, slides into the 30, and we've got another crash, and the 29 hits hard. Steckley with a massive impact into the inside wall, very reminiscent to how Catherine Legg hit the wall in the big one. That one was very easy to see that time. The 70 car had hit the apron, it looked like, right in the middle of 3 and 4. Slid up off the exit of the corner. Tagged the 30 of Cletus McFarland. No major damage on the 30 car. He should be able to continue. Might have stalled the car out a little bit as he was getting it fired back up again. But once he gets some assistance, I'm sure he will continue onward. Big hit for Steckley. Thumbs up from the AMR safety team, so he seems to be okay. 3-car incident, and again, off turn 4. Yet again, same spot we had the big one. Only 3 cars collected this time. A caution fest in the early laps here at Daytona. Mitchell in the 30 still trying to get the car refired. Currently working on going through all the electrical units inside that car to get the refiring needed. Once again. Yeah, I definitely saw that one live. The 70 had clipped the apron right off the exit of turn 4. And once he did that, car swung wide, making the contact with the 30. So it wasn't like the last crash where we saw somebody break loose. Had clipped the apron, pushed wide. Seems like they might have tried to open the wheel up a little bit to try to keep it from slipping out from underneath them. Obviously, running side by side at that point, you can only move up so far. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think the 30's got a flat left front tire, so that could be some of the problem is to trying to get rolling as well. Just flat spotted it middle of that spin. Didn't hit anything, did a good job steering it clear of the inside wall. Got to be a helpless feeling when you get tagged in the rear like that. He's moving again. Yeah, that's good. Should be able to stay on the lead lap. Luckily here at Daytona, the track is 2.5 miles in length. So getting stalled out like that for a minute or two, should be able to hold on to the lead lap still.
I want to watch a little action, see how Corey could do.
Sounds like they're going to commercial break. I was going to let you listen into some of the broadcast that's airing under caution. This is going to be a long one today. I planned for. Hank the Tree Man saying Daytona, baby. It is Daytona, baby. It is something. I will say the truck race relatively clean, but it did have a slow start as well. Kind of like we're seeing in the ARCA race. We did have 3 cautions in the first 20 laps. Ended up with 8, but all in all, those last 30 laps or so, very good racing going on. Very little incidents, but action-packed to say the least. Unskippable commercials. On the broadcast, yeah. That's a common stay on the Fox side of things. Probably guaranteed more commercials with this race on Big Fox compared to FS1. Man, oh man. I don't know if Cletus is a lap down or not. Let's see. Got to find him. 25th. He did lose 1 lap, but the first car 1 lap down at the time of a caution would get the free pass. And there's only 3 cars that are scored a lap down right now. Guess he was stalled out a little longer than initially thought. He'll be all right, though. Guaranteed a caution at lap 40, so if he does get back on the lead lap with the yellow before that, I'm sure by then he will. Assuming nothing else happens to him. Got a tickle in my throat right now. I'm going to have to step away from the mic for a little bit. I'm waiting for them to come back from commercial first. There we go.
Welcome back to Daytona. Just a nice look at the infield grass, and it's been a busy place today. Unfortunately, a lot of trimming of the grass. Sure. These cars, 2 wrecks. We're under caution for the 2nd time. That incident involving 3 cars and one that avoided it. I mentioned AJ Moyer, Phil. We talked about what a great job he did. So he's one of our Reese's Sweet Move of the Race nominees.
We're going to see him come into view here. That's him right there in that yellow car. And watch the job. That's Kyle Steckley that gets involved, makes hard contact. Moria avoids Steckley, avoids Cletus, and straightens it back.
How many years of his life do you think he saw in that flash there? Would that happen?
About 6.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, visit ARCARacing.com on Monday at 3 Eastern to see who is crowned the Reese's Sweet Move of the race. So we're only 15 laps in, and we already have 2 of our 3 nominees.
Yeah.
Well, Lawless Allen has done a great job. He's led all 15 laps so far. Amanda, what's his crew chief thinking?
I think there's some sweet moves there too, Jamie, leading every lap of this race. And Kevin Reed Jr. is on the call with Lawless Allen today, and I talked to him prior to the race, and he was just so excited about being full time with Venturini this season. I've heard you talk through Lawless through a couple of these starts to the race. What do you make of his composure so far?
So far, Lawless has been flawless, Alan, so far. His truck experience really shown out. He has not gotten flustered. He knows the deal. He knows how to work the air. Tony Rain's doing a great job keeping us out of trouble. And this auto park at Toyota Camry's been really fast so far. So far, we've had nothing to worry about working with our teammate, the 55, and we're going to continue that path.
I heard you tell Lawless that when it comes to the teammate plan, you live and die together. How do we expect that to unfold as the race continues?
I think as long as Isabella and Lawless work together, we're a pretty two's better than one always here. And we brought our friends with us, and we got the 25 still sitting right there pretty close. So he's a backup plan, and we're all just going to work together, stick together, and go win this race.
Thank you, Kevin. Bold statement there, Jamie.
Yeah, I like what Kevin said. He said it's not Lawless, it's Flawless Allen. He
Flawless
wants to
Allen.
till the end.
That's great.
Aldo Castroneves, he had damage in that first, the big one, we're calling it. They fixed him up a little bit. Let's hear from him.
Hey, Elio, it's Phil Parsons in the Fox booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Well, buddy, you did a great job avoiding that incident. Obviously had a little bit of damage to the grass, but what did you think when you came off turn 4 and the track was completely blocked?
I was like, man, all kinds of years, I was going to be in trouble someday. You know, because of the damage that caused, like the second with you. So I'm avoiding more than practice here and trying to learn about racing. So hard be good, hard good. So let's keep it rolling.
All right, looks like Shane Huffman has you fixed up, buddy. Go get him.
Thanks for that.
Hey, he's a heck of a race car driver, but you know what else he can do? He can dance. He just danced his way through that. Hey, if you're a Dancing with the Stars fan, he won it back in 2007.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and he said, I'm trying to learn more about avoiding crashes than racing, as we've talked about. So great job by him on that. I'm sure he'll have a lot more of those moments on Sunday at some point. So that's good experience. I know it's not the kind of experience he was maybe looking for, but getting through that, not locking up the brakes, making the right move, it's very important.
Well, his damage was so bad in the dual race, he couldn't finish, so he didn't get a lot of time. So he's making up for that. His team was able to fix him up in the areas he needed, and he's learning with every lap.
It's amazing. I saw some video while we were watching Cup practice and the repair that they were doing to that car. I mean, the old car, not the next gen car, they would just throw that car in a basket. I mean, they cut the front clip off, and it's amazing the damage repair that they can do now.
They did it so quickly. They only got to come in 2 hours before the garage opened, and that car was going through tech by the end of the day. So Lawless Allen is on the outside in the 20. Isabella Robusto, his teammate, on the inside.
It's been relatively calm right at the very front.
Don't say it, Phil.
Oh my gosh. Why would you say something like that on a race like today?
So we have
Well, we've only had 2 cautions, 17 laps in, about to be lap 18 on the restart. Pace cars back on pit road again, and again it's Lawless Allen leading the field to the green. Took the outside lane of row 1 for this initial restart, just as he did the last time. And also just as he did the last time, was able to pull clear the 55 of Isabella Robusto to get to the inside of the racetrack. Raz in the 76, who was in line on the outside of row 2 for the restart, couldn't get to the bottom with Allen. So now he leads that second line of cars on the outside of the 18 of Sawalich, battling for third still as they get to the exit of turn 2. Still quite a few cars, obviously, in this race. Again, 15 involved in the first incident of the day. Circuiting our way into turns 3 and 4. A little bit of a gap bridging between first and second here. Robusto will close that to the exit of turn 4. Cars should be about up to speed now as they work their way to the start-finish line. Takes almost a full lap to get up to speed here at Daytona with this restrictor plate package that the ARCA series uses. In turns 1 and 2. Double wide from about 5th all the way back through 14th or so. 76 of Raz finally gets down to the bottom of the track on the exit of turn 2. Fell back to 6th place before finding room on the bottom of the track. Oh my goodness, massive impact off turn 2. The 70 again. Cletus McFarland is all sorts of torn up from this incident. That was a terrifying impact there for a couple of drivers. As soon as they cut to the crash, there were already parts and pieces flying everywhere. And there are 3 cars that were involved, 2 of which were just involved in the second incident. And if they weren't done before, they are definitely done now. There's a 4th car, 5th car. There's actually more cars involved in this crash than initially anticipated there. It looks like there are 5 cars that might have been collected. The 12, the 30, the 86. The 70 got pretty much the entire rear end housing, it looked like, ripped off of his car. Bracket in the 02. We had about a lap and a half, if that, of green flag racing and another caution here at Daytona. And every crash we have seen has just been violent. This one may be the most violent.
That was a big hit. Look at the damage on the front end of that race car.
Jeez.
That's another thing, Trevor. We talk about all these short track racers from all over the country getting their opportunity to race here. And obviously you can have some big hits on short tracks. I mean, on a quarter-mile racetrack, but
not like this.
When you hit something at 170 or 80 miles an hour, it's jarring. There's Becca right there. Good to see her out of her car. She's won 20 championships running trucks.
That's the second time we've seen a front bumper just laying on the track.
Took a big hit.
These
That
smaller
tire pulled it up
paints.
underneath.
It's got
It's a
tire
lot for
front
them. You
clip
can't
got
just bounce
sheared
back so
off.
easily after hits like this.
See Craig climbing out of the car just before the ambulance pulled in behind it.
Oh, that was a good sign to see him getting.
We haven't seen a replay yet, so hopefully everybody's okay. Here we go. We got our first replay.
This is going to be towards the back of the pack, I believe. See, there's Amber. She makes contact with another car.
Yeah.
That,
oof,
man, hard. That was Cletus that came along with nowhere to go. And Cletus.
Oh, that was the impact we saw live, was the 86 hitting the back of the 70.
Yeah, so Amber, I mean, she was hit 3 or 4 times there.
Tough break for Amber. We know that right now this is her only scheduled race.
There's Craig Brackett hanging the inside safer bar.
Oh.
And another hit.
Those second and third impacts are the ones that get you. The first one, you're
This one.
coming.
You're stunned.
And another one
Wow.
right there.
Wow.
Gosh.
It was like
That was
3 or 4
hard hits in that
yeah.
incident for Craig Brackett.
Yeah.
Look at it at real speed here.
Saw Amber get spit up racetrack. Just nowhere to go.
Oh. Yeah. You could hear that car hitting the inside wall from this camera.
On board with Cletus.
Oh, there's contact.
Yeah, sure, right.
I didn't notice the contact the first
For
replay.
Amber to cause her to turn a lot like that.
It almost looked like contact with the car that was down below her, and then it upset the car.
This is ugly.
So they'll get those wrecked race cars off. They'll tend to the drivers.
A lot of debris to pick up as well.
As soon as we get. Not sure what he said there, but he knows that the camera is on. Talking to all of his subscribers or those that want to subscribe to his YouTube channel.
That right front tire looks like it's lodged in the cockpit. Might be exaggerated a little bit. It was bent up, though.
Well, the last incident involved a couple of teammates. Kyle Steckley, one of them. He was just checked and released. Caitlin.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, Kyle here. We've been looking at the replays, obviously, from the third caution. But when you think back to the incident you were involved in, what do you think happened there?
Yeah, Amber just got on the apron at a 4 there and shot up the track and made contact with another car and then shot back down. So I guess just wrong place at the wrong time and try to get down there and avoid them. But yeah, looking at it now, he got it into a teammate and then I dove down and just nowhere to go and spun into the inside wall. So hate it for all the Red Jones Racing guys, the whole Jones family for getting me here, as well as APC Auto Parts Centers, Pennzoil, and everyone who helped out. So I was really excited to be here. Unfortunately, it ended short, but hopefully we can be back for more racing in the future.
Thank you. Early exit for Kyle Steckley. Jamie?
Yeah, now his day is finished.
This has the feel to one of those races that is gonna, I mean, we're basically never gonna get a long green flag run. I mean, maybe we get enough cars knocked out of the race that the likelihood of seeing another crash just becomes significantly less as we get closer to the end. My goodness. Yeah, that was started by Amber Balkin there. Her car had broken loose towards the middle of turn 2, and there was a car underneath her at the time, which I didn't see on the initial replay, but the last replay looked like there was contact. I think she might have had it saved had there not have been contact after she broke loose the first time, but definitely as a result of that happening, she kind of came back up across the track, and instead of kind of sliding down across the banking, she stayed right in the middle of the racing line mid-slide. The 30 of McFarland ended up coming in there and basically cleaning house for the first major impact of the crash, and then the hits just basically got more and more savage after the fact. Let's just remember in the chat for people that I've seen bashing the driver talent, I guess, in this race. A lot of the drivers in this series are trying to break their way into the NASCAR ranks. And especially in this Daytona or the super speedway racing that ARCA puts on, a lot of these drivers are not planning on running ARCA full-time throughout the season. So that only adds to the amateurish, I guess, of the caliber of racing that we see. I mean, a lot of these drivers have never touched a super speedway oval in their life up until the test sessions and the practice sessions within the last several weeks. And that's one thing that I feel like ARCA does do well, that they do have a lot of test sessions leading up to the start to try to avoid situations like we've seen today, which just seems to be a dangerous race with the amount of heavy impacts and finally crashes we've seen in the early laps already. We have over 1,000 people in the chat. That might be a new stream record. We've had that, I think, at one point before. Greatly appreciate everybody tuning in for this one and staying tuned in, even if your favorite drivers may have been knocked out of the race now through these first few incidences. This thing is dragging so much that we're only on lap 22. 80 laps is not long at Daytona, but when you're riding around at, 70 miles per hour under caution for, a 200-mile race, it could feel like a normal 200-mile trip you'd be taking down your state route. We haven't taken an ad break ourselves in this stream up to this point. I've tried to stay away from it as much as possible, but we will take our first one now while we're waiting yet another cleanup from our... Should get back to racing hopefully sometime soon yet again. We are guaranteed that yellow again at lap 40 at some point as well. You're listening live on KRC to the Ride the Dent 200. Boy, that name is... they chose the right name for this race. Man. There would be 5K if Cletus was still in the race. Oh. And we got a roll bar that's stuck in a splitter of one of the JGR Toyotas. And that would be Sawalich in the 18, who is definitely going to be a front runner as long as he keeps his car clean. He's definitely going to have to make the unscheduled stop. How did that happen? I thought he was ahead of the incident. He must have hit that. That must have been laying on the track still. Somebody missed a roll bar. Punctured a hole. It doesn't look like the hole's massive. They'll bear bond that thing back up and get the 18 out there on the raceway again. Very certain we'll see more interviews from drivers that will be exiting the infield care center following this last crash. 5 more drivers involved. Amber Balkin, Cletus McFarland involved in the incident. Craig Bracken took the biggest hits, a few of them in that crash. Becca Monopoly also involved. Every driver of the 5 that were in that incident, 12 of Takuma Koga, those 5 cars that was in that crash had at least one violent hit there, and I'm glad that everybody was okay. especially for the 02. Craig Bracken took some massive shots. We have so many cars out of this race already. Koga is out of the race from that crash in 23rd. Ed Pompa, 4 laps down as of right now. We pretty much have about half the field taken out of this race in the first 24 out of 80 laps. We had 40 cars start this ARCA opener at Daytona, and we only have 21 left on the lead lap. That is insane. All right, well, we'll try this again. Lap 25 restart. Pace car pulls to pit road again. Wallace Allen on the front row. I believe he's actually led every lap of this race, most of which under caution, but he's done a great job on the restarts to get out ahead early, as he does yet again. Good launch, pulls to the bottom of the racetrack in front of Robusto. So they lead their way into turns 1 and 2. Again, 21 cars on the lead lap. And when oh my gosh, we got another crash. Is that the 8 of Sean Core? I thought he was out. It looked like the 8. The 0, Brayton Laster. Yeah, Core is out already. Brayton Laster in the 0. We weren't even at speed and we had somebody wrecking going into turn 1. I'm going to just assume that they had a tire that was cut because of running over debris. That's going to be a wild guess of mine because, I mean, they couldn't have been going more than 150 miles an hour at that point. Unless he was at the back of the pack trying to get caught up on the restart and he was already at speed. This is our 4th caution of the race already. This is something. That's where it seems like every hit has been violent. At some point, I would like to hope that we're going to get some racing in the race, but yeah, that car just turned right. Something had to have broken on that race car because he wasn't even into the corner yet. Flat out on the straightaway, not even up to speed, and Laster's car just took a straight right for the outside wall. Suspension failure? I mean, a car just doesn't turn right like that in the middle of the straightaway with no contact. Especially not up to speed. Something was probably broken riding around under caution, or maybe it was about to break and didn't break until he started to reach a certain speed point. Was that Angel Reese driving? Oh my gosh. The chat, I've been trying to look at the chat as much as I can. You guys are all comedians in the chat here. At least we're, we're trying to have fun here. We're trying to have fun. We're doing a good job of it, all things considered. There's so much that has happened already in this race, or lack thereof. We still have well over half of it remaining. This race might compete with the length of the Daytona 500 in real time. If we have a clean Daytona 500 tomorrow, this race from green flag at lap 1 to lap 80 might be longer than the 200 lap 500 mile race we'll see tomorrow. Oh my goodness. Wallace Allen might set a record, by the way. He's led every lap so far. But that has definitely not been the talking point of what we have seen so far today. Never watched NASCAR? ARCA always like this? No, it's not not like this. There have been instances of this in the past, but it's been a very long time. I mentioned right at the start of the stream that the ARCA race the last 2 years since we've been doing these live commentary streams on the channel have been great. One of the better races of the weekend, personally. This weekend, it has been, it's just been sloppy. The Truck Series put on a really good race, I thought, yesterday. It stunk after the fact that Parker Kligerman had gotten DQ'd with the ride height violation. Car sitting too low to the ground, failed post-race inspection. Corey Heim credited with the win. That put a damper on things, but the racing itself throughout those 100 laps was pretty good. And still holding on to hope that we could get that at some point in this ARCA race. We only have half the field left. Half of the field is out of the race, and we're not even halfway. These teams have probably saved so much fuel under the caution, riding around at this caution lap pace, that maybe they don't even have to fuel the car at lap 40. No, they will. They're going to have to fuel it still. But my goodness. Almost 250 likes on stream. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more daily NASCAR content. Live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend. Again, for Truck Xfinity Cup races all season long.
I had a chance to digest.
Here's Amber Balkan.
Yeah, I'm okay. It was a hard hit though. After we went green, I saw smoke coming from my right side. I figured I might have had a tire rub, and going down the front stretch, going into one, I got on the radio and said, guys, I told them before we're smoking. I said, guys, we got a right rear going down, and before I could pull in and get into the pits, it blew and obviously hit the wall and caused unfortunate wreck for other people, which I hate that. I know everyone works super hard to get here, but I want to thank my sponsors, Icon Direct and Ask Amber Gambit, for bringing us here. It just sucks. That was a crazy race. Unfortunate we couldn't get a pit road to get that tire rub fixed sooner.
Glad you're okay. Disappointing end for the day there for Amber Balkan. Jamie?
Thank you, Caitlin. And we have
Yeah, we haven't seen as many spins through the weekend in turn 2 like that. We have seen cars lose control off of turn 4. So as detailed there by Amber Balkan in her interview, she ended up having a right rear tire going flat. And that was the reason for the spin there, which it doesn't surprise me with all the cars that have damage. You know, we definitely had a parts issue which caused this last incident on the restart for the Zero Brayton Laster. And Amber Balkan obviously having a tire go down, and that was only one full green flag lap into the restart as well. Had to have been a slow leak considering that the tire lasted over a whole lap, plus obviously riding around under caution whenever they would have changed tires from the spin that took place just before that. It's cool seeing all the fighter jets flying into the Daytona International Speedway. The airport taking place on the back straightaway. We've seen that all the way throughout the course of this race. They're probably putting on a pretty good air show. The air show might be the better of the races, quote unquote, although it's not much of a race in the air, but they're putting on maybe just as good, if not a better show than we've seen on track at Daytona as of right now. Practicing for the president's arrival tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sure. They usually put on a pretty good air show prior to the Daytona 500 as well. I was at the Daytona for the ARCA race that Saturday afternoon that they had a kind of a practice air show, if you will, going on before what they ended up planning for the 500 the next day. So it seems to be an annual tradition for the Daytona 500. Obviously, with President Trump flying in at some point tomorrow, too, that probably adds to it. Here's Cletus McFarland exiting the infield care center.
Come to a close. What was your experience like as a whole?
Well, I was having the best day of my life. Ripping around Daytona like a bald eagle. It's flat out, you know. Avoided a wreck, which was awesome. I thought I was the best driver to ever exist in that moment. And it's probably because my sleeves were cut off that I was able to pull off that maneuver, come down pit road. Then someone slammed into my rear left quarter, spun me out, lived through that, got some fresh tires, went back out there. I'm hot dogging into 1 and 2, and the car lost it in front of me. I saw it, didn't have enough brakes to get slowed down before it, and tried to go around it, misread it, zigged instead of zagged when I should have zagged, and I zigged, and bam, blew the front end right off my hot rod.
I hate that for you. And before we came to this interview, you were watching that jet taking off. Have you ever seen anything like that? You seemed pretty impressed by it when you were just standing here.
Yeah, I'm the pilot of Consuela.
You know what I mean? It's the fastest aircraft in the country, but that F-16 is pretty cool.
Garrett Mitchell, obviously. Cletus, an early exit from the race. Join us again, though, here in ARCA at some point.
I don't think this is the last we've seen of.
So
I don't think this is the last we've seen of Cletus McFarland in the NASCAR ranks. Maybe he'll be back at Talladega this year. I mean, who knows? Kid can drive. We've had some interviews that have been very interesting today. Had somebody say it was actually fun to be involved in the first big one that we had earlier today, and then we had that from Cletus McFarland. I didn't realize how tall he was. 6'6". I didn't meet him in the infield at Daytona when I was there in 2022, but I remember seeing him. And at one point, they ended up interviewing him and his posse on the Jumbotron just before the start of the Daytona 500 that Sunday. Whole camp was rooting for Alex Bowman. Not his first trip to Daytona, just his first behind the wheel of a car during the course of Speed Weeks. Lights are out on the pace car. We're going to try this again. Looks like they're just getting into turns 1 and 2 as they're doubled up for the moment. While we're awaiting the next restart, we'll take a quick break here and we'll come back. You're listening to the Ride the Dent 200 right here on KRC. Like, subscribe. We still got over half the race to go. Eight green flag laps to 21 caution laps in the first 29 completed laps of this race. About to be 22 for 8. But we will be back to green flag action here shortly. And we will have exactly 50 laps to go. Again, the refueling and changing of the tires during non-competitive pit stops, that competition caution, if you will, for those changes will be at lap 40, which would mark halfway. Obviously, anybody that's been involved in an incident or a spin of any nature, they've been able to change tires already to this point, but you can't fuel the cars at any point other than at lap 40. It's the only time you can fuel or refuel the race cars, so everybody will have to pit and make some adjustments there. Haven't had much of a practice session, if you will, the first 40 laps to try to get a good feel for how your car's handling, because we've only had 8 green flag laps to this point. Green flag is back in the air. A couple of newbies at the front of the field that stayed out of the pit. Scott Milton in the 68. That ain't right. That is not right. It looks like Hogberg in the 06 and Brian Dozit in the 25 are leading the way. Our leaderboard is not accurate as of this time. Scott Milton is not the leader. Milton is in 4th, though. He is towards the front of the field. Already 3 wide on the restart. We only have about 20 cars left in this race. And they're racing like it's the last lap all of a sudden on this restart. Immediately going 3 by 3. Caution at the wind. They want to go racing. They've been waiting all day to do this. This is really the first we've seen the entire pack 3 wide up to this point. And as they get the speed off the exit of turn 4, will they make it? Oh my gosh, they made it. We got a lap. And the leader at the line is Melton in the 68 this time around. William Sawalich scored 2nd at the start-finish line. He just had a roll bar in his splitter on the restart. Where did Sawalich come from to get that track position back on the restart so quickly? He had to have been in that 3rd line of cars on the outside. Maybe some of the faster cars that were at the back having to repair damage during the caution were the ones that were racing their way up towards the front. But how about Melton? Competitors, if not the oldest competitor in the ARCA field here this year. He's had some violent hits of his own at Daytona, Talladega, in these super speedway races at the ARCA level. Actually broke his leg in a Talladega crash a couple of years ago. Great to see him get to full recovery and back in a race car and now leading here at the high banks of the Daytona International Speedway. Awesome story there. So Wallach back to the lead, though, with Robusto in second. Isabel Robusto has been pretty much in the top three the entire race. And Lawless Allen, who led the entirety of the first 20-something odd laps, pitted during that last caution, gave up some of that track position. And that's why he wasn't in the lead for this restart. Had led every lap up to that point. He is fifth in line down on the bottom of the racetrack. Scratch that, fourth in line. Bottom of the racetrack, double yellow line. Riding around. Boxed in with the amount of cars that are still on the top lane of the racetrack. Not as many cars up high versus down low, which has not been the case for the races so far this weekend. It does seem like the bottom lane has had less cars throughout it. More drivers maybe a little bit more comfortable with the race cars down on the double yellow in this younger or more inexperienced class of drivers that we've seen on the track here this weekend for ARCA. Toyota's 1-2 at the front of the field on the manufacturer race. LeVar Scott in third is the only Chevrolet in the top five. Two Fords rounding out the top five of Melton and Raz. So Walsh is going to be tough to beat in that 18 car. The fact that he went from the back of this 20 car pack on the restart up to the front that quickly. I mean, I kid you not, about a lap or less, he was in the lead again. Scott not giving up in the outside lane is starting to make headway to the front of the field. Robusto almost moved up to try to pull a block for second. Stayed down on the bottom. Gets a push from behind. A little bit of an accordion effect there, but everything's okay until they get into the corner. And it looks like the 68 of Melton is going around. Caution is out. Castroneves gets clipped. Slides across the apron. Quite a bit of nose damage. That was reminiscent of his slide in the duel. Similar damage to Melton's nose splitter area of his race car. Just basically got caved upwards going from the transition of this over 30-degree banking in the middle of the corner down to the flat of the apron, causing the damage on both cars, but definitely out of shape in the middle of the pack. Only two cars collected in this caution. And this is our fifth yellow of the race. If we don't get a restart before lap 40, then this will be the time to refuel the race cars, and we'll get those pit stops in shortly. Castroneves should be able to continue. I'm not sure about Milton. He's got a lot of damage. I believe he clipped Castroneves in the left rear is where the damage on the front of Melton's car came from. Melton was in third. He had Lawless Allen behind him. Melton went to push Robusto. Robusto got loose. That knocked Melton out of line. When he got knocked out of line, he lost a lot of momentum, then got a hit from the 20 of Lawless Allen, which sent him sideways into turn one. Allen steers clear to the outside to miss. Melton did a great job keeping it off the outside wall, but in turning back down the racetrack is when he clipped Helio Castroneves. Castroneves slides down the apron of the track. Same for Melton. They both get nose damage. And there's your detailed description as to how this fifth caution came out. 5 yellows in the first 36 laps of the race. Melton will be questionable to continue. Castroneves should be able to continue in this race, but both cars are going to lose a lot of speed with the splitter damage. They're going to lose a lot of downforce with basically how much the splitter is going to be off the ground compared to what it just was. Just call it. Somebody said in the chat. Just call it. Gives me the Simpsons meme I've seen over the years, or like the short clip where I don't know how it went about, but I've seen it where somebody's getting beat up at recess in the school, and somebody's like, "Just stop it, he's already dead." That's kind of how I feel about this race. Just stop it, they're already dead. I haven't seen anything quite this ugly in a while. My goodness. I'm not going to put the full blame on Lawless Allen there. Part of the blame, considering he made the contact with Melton, but Melton went to push Robusto. Robusto got loose. We really hadn't seen much bump drafting up to that point because we've had a lack of green flag racing. How much to take to repair the number 2? Are you talking about the O2? Because there isn't a number 2 car in the field. I had to look just to double take on that because I haven't noticed one. Craig Bracken definitely had a lot of. I mean, he by far took the biggest. Well, I wouldn't even say by far because we've seen a lot of massive hits in these early incidences. This was the least violent crash that we have seen so far of the 5. Honestly, if it wasn't for the transitional banking to the lack thereof in the middle of the corner, both cars that were involved in this 5th caution of Melton and Castroneves would have been able to continue on without any damage. Yeah, that's definitely similar to the damage taken in the dual race for Castroneves. Maybe allowed him to make the save this time, experiencing that already once this week. The way Castroneves' speed weeks have gone so far, I would say that I would not want to be riding around him in the Daytona 500 tomorrow. It hasn't been his fault that he's getting caught up in the incidences. It's the wrong place at the wrong time, but that is also a product of being in the middle of the pack at a Daytona racetrack or style of racetrack, super speedway. And it does look like we have not everybody coming to pit road, but we have several cars coming in. Not quite to lap 40 yet. We're getting there.
Hospital for further evaluation. He was involved in that lap 18 crash. So
who was that?
Wishing him.
I'm going to rewind it a quick second so we can all hear that together.
It has been an action-packed race so far. More cautions than actual racing. Hopefully that'll change here in the second half of the race. But we certainly have seen a lot. And Craig Bracken, we talked about him. We showed him getting help from his car. He has been transported to a local hospital for
That's tough.
Further evaluation.
Yeah, he
in that lap 18.
He's taking
crash, so wishing
biggest
him
hits.
a speedy recovery. And now we're under caution for the incident.
So Craig Bracken, who was involved in the biggest crash by way of impacts in this race, has been taken to a local hospital for further evaluation, as Jamie Little just stated over the broadcast. So wishes are definitely with him. The biggest impacts for him, too, as Trevor Bain mentioned over the broadcast when we heard during the replays of that crash, is taking a head-on impact or any sort of impact to a part of the car that's exposed because of already having a violent impact before that. And that's pretty much what he endured. He had 3 hard head-on hits. The last one into the inside wall at the end of the crash before his car came to a stop. The whole front bumper was gone at that point. And it was basically just chassis exposed. He did get out of the car, but there was definitely more safety personnel that was surrounding his car following that crash compared to any of the others that were involved. Not just that crash, but really any of the hard crashes we had seen prior to that point. Castroneves is still out there rolling. He's got damage to the nose after driving it across the banking onto the apron. He's got damage to the right side of his car from an earlier incident, and he's still trucking on. And if he could keep that car on the lead lap, he's still got a shot because we have only about less than half the field remaining in this race now. 19 cars are on the lead lap of the 40 that started this race. Ed Pompa also on track, but a lap down. Alex Clubb on track, 5 laps down. But as far as, again, lead lap cars, 19 are still in it.
LeVar Scott, the front row, alongside William Sawalich in the 18. 76, Cole Raz been talking about what a great job he's done today. Isabella Robusto. 48 of Jeff Schofield. That's your first 2 rows.
Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot about Jeff Schofield, but doing a nice job, obviously avoiding all the carnage, running up in the top 5 now.
Corey Day, the HendrickCars.com driver in the 77 right there on the bottom of the track. Making some nice moves, keeping the car clean. We saw Kyle Larson on top of his pit box earlier, and Kyle just thinks this guy is the best prospect out there. So he's aligned himself with Hendrick Motorsports, and it's funny, he had a great story that when Jeff Gordon called his dad and said, "Hey, you know, we want to talk to you guys. We're interested in hiring him." He said, "Send me a picture. I want to know this is really true." And he did. And
his dad was a racer. His dad was an accomplished racer out on the West Coast.
so exciting for the
How
family.
amazing that Jeff Gordon and Rick Hendrick, give that much credibility to Kyle Larson to say, help us find the next talent. And Jeff has done that, obviously.
Absolutely. Back under green here is William Sawalich is out front.
Wallace Allen bump drafting again.
To the outside.
The car in front of him is so far sideways, he's not going to be able to
Side
hold
by
on.
side they go into turn 2.
Man, oh man.
Cole Raz, second car in line on the inside.
Again, we started this race with 40 cars. We're down to about maybe 20 that have no damage.
There's Jason Kitzmiller, that 97. Third in line on the inside. Corey Day, the blue and white 77. Inspired Motorsports.
Corey Day does have some damage.
Oh, man.
Wallace Allen, that baby blue car on the outside, he had dominated the early part of this race, trying to get his way back up there. He knows how good this car is.
Yeah, and there's just absolutely no reason to be pushing right now. If I'm a spotter or crew chief, I'm saying, guys, let's give it some space here. You're not going anywhere. We saw the 97 had that little wiggle off of turn 4, and Corey Day was so close, he couldn't even respond quick enough. And then you saw the 25 of Jake Finch almost get into him. It's that chain reaction that you got to look way ahead for and be on guard.
See a little bit of a gap back to that 27 of Tim Richmond. Remember 2-3 years ago, Jamie, he was in contention to win and ran out of fuel very late in this race.
I know he relives that probably every day of his life.
Exactly.
Time he comes back here to Daytona, he knows in his heart that little team does have a chance. And that is the great thing about Daytona. The little teams can win races here. You just got to be smart. And like you say, Trevor, have a little luck on your side.
We saw that 2 years ago when Greg Van Alst went to Victory Lane, and he's one of the more emotional victory interviews that I've ever seen, and said, a short track guy like me is not supposed to win Daytona.
It's so great. We replay that over and over. It's just, that's what Daytona is. It's magical. It changes your life if you can say you won here, especially as you move up the ranks in NASCAR.
Yeah, we mentioned 80% of our drivers racing in the 3 national series had raced in the ARCA series. A great proving ground. It has been for years and years and years. That's what launched my brother's career, 2-time ARCA champion back in the late 60s.
And that's why you see, Elio Castroneves. Every year we have those personalities that come over to this series to learn so that they can race on Sunday eventually. That's everybody's dream. Elio will be in the Great American Race on Sunday. And because he wrecked in the duel, he fell back on that provisional from NASCAR. So he will actually be the 41st car in the race. But guys, because he did, he doesn't get any prize money. So it is what it is, but you still get to race.
Yeah.
Our biggest race of the year, the biggest purse of the year, and race for nothing. But that's how much they want to be here.
Well, and that obviously for team owners, it's different, right? They operate off of that. But from a driver perspective, you're not even thinking about the winnings or what that is. When you look up and see your number on that pylon in the middle and it's at the top of the board, the last thing you're thinking about is how much money did I win? It's I just won at Daytona, or you have the opportunity to race here. And so for Elio to be able to come, and for Wendy's, the partner that's come on board, it's a big deal to just be able to be on TV, have their brand on there, and go racing.
Things staying status quo up front. LeVar Scott, one of the full-time drivers, had heartbreak last year. So close to winning, came up one spot short to his first ever win. Maybe today will be his day.
We're hearing from the ARCA officials that mid-race break will be somewhere around lap 45. So within a couple laps, we will probably have the caution out for that mid-race break.
It was extended because of the lack of green flag laps we've had to this point.
Maintain position with fewer cars. You're always looking for the line that has the most cars, typically gets the most momentum. But she's been able to hang right there with that group of 4 on the outside.
Jeff Schofield behind Isabella, trying to get that energy, that momentum on the outside.
was talking to LeVar Scott, our leader, down in the pits yesterday, and he said, man, this is your year. He had such a fantastic season last year, running full-time, second in points, rookie of the year, second points to his teammate, Andres Perez de Lara. I said, man, this can be your year. And he said he's really excited and really feels good about it and doing an outstanding job today.
Andre.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Schofield goes around. Wallace Allen, her teammate.
Wow.
He's around.
And when we're within a lap, maybe two of a mid-race break, I'm not sure that maybe there was contact from the 48
it
of
looked like
Schofield.
Jeff Schofield pushed the back bumper of Isabella, and that's where we see those cars move the most. They're the most unloaded down that backstretch where they're sitting flat, no banking, and just turns these cars around. So
And
hate
why
to
are we
see that.
pushing?
Corey
Why are we
Day.
pushing, Trevor?
Exactly. I mean, at this point, as I said, if I'm a spotter crew chief, I'm saying do not get close to the rear bumper of another car until we're within a lap of the finish of this thing.
I don't even know if you want to do it at that point.
To see her day, but perhaps they can get it fixed up here to see how bad that damage truly is. Quite a bit there on the left side.
Yeah, right.
Holy
rear corner
moly.
as well.
Yeah, for me, I kind of, when you start getting the corners, the perimeter of the car is when you're in trouble. If you're around a wheel well, obviously something like that. But if it's mid door, like we saw in the
Like
55,
Elio. And
right,
like Elio.
exactly.
Yeah.
No big deal there. But that right rear was concerning on Isabella's car.
So we're under caution here for the 6th time as they clean up the carnage. Take a look at what happened.
Yeah, just offset to the right way too much and pushes on her right rear corner.
ARCA Menard Series racing from Daytona will continue after this.
My goodness. We were pretty much going to get that midway caution at some point in the next lap or two. So again, to kind of add on to what the booth was even talking about there with Phil Parsons and Trevor Bain, why are we pushing right now? We've obviously seen bump drafting cause, the Scott Melton incident essentially is what triggered that. And I noticed that Robusto was obviously loose, which kind of caused that chain reaction after a push. She ended up getting a push again. This time did completely lose control, and that sparked this 4-car crash, give or take. How many cars were actually involved in that? A lot more with severe damage again. We already had less than the half the field that started this race out or off the lead lap, and this is going to add a few more to that list. This should be the midway caution to refuel and change tires, make any adjustments here during this next stop. I'm trying to remember back to if this is supposed to be a timed deal like we see with some of the standalone Xfinity and Truck Series events when they don't have live pit stops as well, where they have about 5 to 10 minutes to work on the cars. My goodness. We still got about 400 people in the chat right now, and I greatly appreciate that. This is by far the biggest viewership we've seen on the channel for Speed Week up to this point. I think we had almost 1,300 people in the chat at one point early in the race. This is crazy. It's been a crazy race. It's been a crazy stream, and you guys are awesome for tuning in, staying tuned in. Even if you might have tuned in earlier, hopefully you come back again at some point in time. We are not even done with today after this race. We still have the Xfinity Series race later at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we still have Cup Series practice scheduled for 3 p.m. Eastern. That might get pushed back a little bit. Same for the Xfinity race, depending on how long this race goes. We are a little past halfway now, so I guess we're getting closer to the end. But anything that was supposed to be taking place in a timely fashion at Daytona might be further delayed following the length of this ARCA season opener. The Ride the Dent 200. It's usually the ARCA Menards 200 or the Menards 200 or something of that nature. It used to be Lucas Oil for a long time there growing up with this ARCA 200. But the Ride the Dent 200, that's a new name. And it might be the name. The Ride the Dent. We've got a lot of dents in race cars throughout the course of the last real time, just over an hour since we started this race. It feels like this thing's been going on for longer than an hour. It feels like we've been sitting here for about 4 hours to watch the first 47 of the 80 laps. But needless to say, we are just barely over an hour and a half into the stream and just over an hour into the race real time. Here are the pit stops to take suit following this caution.
Pit road. Let's now take a look at the Richmond mid-race report.
Oh, chaos mostly is what the mid-race report is.
No.
See there, 34 laps to go. Leader now, LeVar Scott. 5 different leaders, 9 lead changes, but right there, that bottom number, cautions, 6. That has just been tough for these drivers to get any kind of rhythm.
Well, and they weren't just like, hey, there's debris on the track. These have been big incidents every time.
See, Isabella driving back to the garage area. They must have felt like there's too much damage to repair on pit road.
Looked like that rear end housing was knocked over pretty bad from that right rear hit.
We're somehow 3 wide on pit road for a moment.
We're under caution for this last incident with Isabella Robusto on the outside.
Watch behind her. She's the 55 car. The 48 of Schofield is going to get up there. Is she going to get a push from Lawless Allen? Maybe a little bit bump from, or Schofield did from Lawless Allen, kind of maybe pushed her into Isabella.
He did, and with all the young drivers that I worked with this week, we talked about that. If you are behind someone, you've got to know the gap to the car in front of them. If the 20 is pushing the 48, he's got to be listening for that. Quarterback, he's on him, and you've got to back off that guy that you're pushing if they're to the bumper of the car in front of them. Otherwise, you get this chain reaction, and the 48's pretty much along for the ride at that point. He's being pushed. He's against the car in front of him. There's nowhere else to go. They offset that accordion effect, and then somebody's getting spit out.
Yeah, here the spotter has to look at least 2 cars ahead.
That's right.
They have to know what's in front of the car in front of his car.
Isabella Robusto going for Rookie of the Year. She's running full-time the ARCA Menards Series, so she's going to have to wait a few weeks for her next race as she is back in the garage. Under caution, once again, here at Daytona. When we come back, we'll drop the green flag for the second half of racing.
Well, a little bit past halfway. We'll do our diecast showing now. During the course of these live commentary streams, I show off one of my diecasts for my collection. I kind of figure with Elio Castroneves in the field for this weekend's Daytona 500 and for this ARCA race that I'd show off an IndyCar diecast instead of a NASCAR diecast because I only have a couple of them to say the least. And this guy's also running in the Daytona 500 this weekend. 7-time Cup Series champion Jimmy Johnson, of course, partook in the Indy 500 a couple years ago. Ran full-time. Actually, an IndyCar for 1 year, ran all the road courses another. I went to the Indy 500 for the first time and only time in my life in 2022, so I had to get a Jimmy Johnson IndyCar diecast. Only made sense for me. This is his Carvana car, and this would have been from the 2021 season, so technically this was the season before I had gone to see him race in the Indy 500, but this is our diecast showing for today, and I think these diecasts are 1/18 scale for the Indy cars, at least the ones that I had seen to be purchased, like this one, and then the one that I have. So they're always sitting on top of my actual case because they don't fit in them. The case really only fits the 1/24 scale diecast. But so if the camera lens is clean enough to see all the dust basically sitting on top of the car, this car collects a lot more dust considering it's out of the case. But that is going to be our diecast showing. I'll give you another look at the car, even though it's symmetrical. Overhead shot of it. That's going to be our diecast showing for today's stream. Over half the field has been knocked out. Yeah, this is insane. We only have 15 cars on the lead lap out of 40 that started. Now, we've seen races like that at Daytona before, but never to where there's still 30 laps left and there's only 15 cars. Usually it's like that's where they would finish, is with like 15 cars left in the race. We still have 30 laps left. Over half this race is definitely going to be under caution, the rate we're going at, unless we somehow miraculously go green flag to the end. The only chance we're going green flag to the end is if it's single file, which we really haven't seen in this race to this point, is only single file, long train line. If they get to that point, that could lead to a long green flag run, but I don't see it happening otherwise. And even then, I mean, we still might not even see it. Base Camp, thanks for tuning in. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so either. I think even if we saw single file, I think we'll still get a caution or two before the end. They'll find a way. I mean, we've had some incidents happen. The biggest crash as far as viciousness with impacts go, That started because of a deal under the caution, or basically a tire was flat on the right rear. She somehow made it about a lap and a half before it went completely flat. More experienced drivers in that situation would notice that they have a tire maybe going flat before she recognized it. Get it back to pit road in advance. Well, we talked about the lack of experience at the very start of the stream and multiple times throughout the course of the race. It's part of what ARCA brings. And again, you see more of that usually at Daytona and Talladega with the bigger field sizes in this series as well.
Questions?
Come
Yeah.
up with some good things, yes, but yes, he and the first lady will both be here on
Awesome.
hold. And last time he actually took a couple laps around the track before the race in the Beast. So I think I might even ask him that, what that's like, and if he's going to do it again.
That's a heavy car to put on 31 degrees of banking.
Imagine driving that thing around here.
It's a beast.
So we're excited. NASCAR moved everything up an hour, by the way, because there is impending rain tomorrow afternoon. So well done by all to just try to get ahead of it. So our coverage has shifted an hour early, and you won't want to miss all the stories as we get you ready for the Great American Race. But first, we got the ARCA Menard series.
Re-rack 'em, Jamie. Here we go again.
You see it, there are 25 drivers involved in wrecks. We had a field of 40 to start this thing.
Alrighty. Maybe we put the reset button at the halfway mark. What do you think, Phil?
Well, I hope so. Great
Lamar's-
stop by Swallow, though.
William Sawalich on the outside.
Who's going to jump over in front of LeVar Scott, get down to that double yellow line? Jake Finch now is the leader on the outside line. Has Ryan Roulette that right far behind him. Tim Richmond has done an amazing job avoiding some incidents. That last one especially, he lines up now in fourth spot. Jake Finch now in front of him in third.
Jake Finch been very patient. Last year, this was his race, and it came down to the very end when he lost. And I know that hurt him pretty bad because he had such a great race car here. Has a great one still today. So looking for some friends, get a little momentum.
Shannon Rush, who orchestrated his win at Talladega and this race here last year. Back calling his shots for Jake, and he will call the shots. Jake's going to run about a half a dozen races this year for Victorini Motorsports, and Shannon will be calling the shots. Remember, Shannon won 10 races with Jesse Love a couple years ago.
2 seasons ago, of course, Jesse Love has moved up. He used this series, what it's designed to do, and that's move up to one of the national levels of NASCAR.
Seems like they're pretty content to get single file here and chill out for a second. But I do see Jake Finch pushing on the back bumper there of Tim Richmond. Actually, reverse. Tim Richmond pushing on Jake Finch.
Stop pushing.
I'm waving my glove out the window.
Yeah, stop pushing.
Chill out.
Tim.
Guys,
We're single file.
Pastor Nemes is the
I
eighth
know.
car in line.
Yeah.
Are you-
Never out of it.
How many-
Andy Jankowiak, we talked
Right
about
behind
him,
him.
right behind him.
How
Not out of
many
this thing.
incidents has Elliot
All
been
of them.
involved in?
That's every
Yeah.
every
I
single
think
one.
only 2, actually.
Yeah. I think he missed the one, the second one that Amber was in.
But he's digging.
But none of
He
those
shoved that
were
car,
his
got
fault
it
either.
going.
He's just, been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so,
And as Trevor mentioned, he can follow along. He can stay in the draft. Now, it may be tough for him to make any passes with that damage he has, especially to the front end, but he's doing an amazing job in staying with it.
Well, William Sawalich is the one guy the rest of this field does not want to be leading on the last lap here at Daytona. Such a talented young racer. He's done so much winning, Phil. We've called so many of his race wins, but he's never raced here because he wasn't old enough. Now he's 18, getting a lot of laps around here. Mentioned he finished 9th in the truck race last night. He's got another race coming up today, so.
You see that yellow car, number 06, that's Bryce Augerberg. He's a mechanical engineering student at North Dakota State University, and they're actually sponsoring him here. As you can see, ndsu.edu on the back of that car, and he's doing an amazing job here.
is that like a scholarship, you think, Phil? It's like, hey, I'll put you on my race car if you let me come for free.
Yes, absolutely. You would think.
Do we dare say they've settled down just a bit?
I wouldn't say it yet.
Yeah, I'd be afraid to say it.
It's too late.
I'd be afraid to say it.
Yeah, but at this point, everybody should be pretty content to lock in, log laps, and Daytona is all about timing. You know this, Phil. I remember my first Daytona 500 here, and I was working with David Reagan at the time, and he obviously had a lot of experience and was so patient. And I was like, David, it's time to go. David, it's time to go. And he says, no, we're waiting, we're waiting. And that's when we could talk to each other on the radio. And so his patience actually paid off for me, but did a great job. Yeah, so you just want to log some laps here and try to get to the end.
What did David Pearson tell you? If you're going to have a chance to win this race, you're going to have to be on the racetrack on the last lap.
That's right.
These cars right here, obviously some of them have damage, and we talked about with Andy J's car as well as Elio's, but they're staying in line, doing what they need to do, logging some laps, and we'll try to fight it out at the end.
Considering the wild ride that Elio Castroneves has been through in that 82 machine, it looks pretty darn good.
From here, Jamie, we're like a half mile away from him.
It has a lot to do with the wrap. There's a lot going on with Wendy's on that race car.
You
But
see that gap though underneath that balance. That certainly won't hurt that car.
And the right side force there. So for him, I'm trying to keep that splitter tucked up as close as I can. Obviously not pushing Phil, but being as close as I can to keep air off of it. And later in the race on old tires, that's when it's going to become a handful. We've already seen them all, that transition off the banking, and that's just going to pop the nose up, make it slide even worse on corner exit.
Butterbean doing a great job making his ARCA Menard Series debut. He's 5th in line. A lot of newbies to the series. Phil, you touched on that. We've lost some early in the race. Others doing a really nice job here. Butterbean will be full-time here. Working lap 56 of 80 from Daytona. Great to see these guys under green.
Yeah.
Who will hang on and take home the victory?
It took narrowing down the field to 14 cars left on the lead lap before things started to get calm for the first time today, but that's what we have right now. And honestly, I don't know if they're going to get back to side-by-side. Even if we get down into the final 10 laps of the race, drivers might try it, but I don't know that we're going to see enough in this lead pack to really build enough momentum. These ARCA cars are obviously a little bit slower when making a full lap at Daytona speeds for themselves compared to what we would see on like a Truck Xfinity Cup Series side that have just a little bit more horsepower during the course of their races. Not going to see a lot of bump drafting to really get those lines moving in a forward direction as well because of the bump drafting issues that we have seen so far today causing incidences. Although we might still see people try, I don't think it'll be very successful. William Sawalich has to be in a great spot right now leading this race even with still 23 laps to go. We'll go through the full field running order here. Lap 58 of 80, William Sawalich leads. Started on the front row, and he's out in front now. LeVar Scott in second, Jake Finch third, Tim Richmond in fourth, and Brendan Queen rounds out the top 5 in fifth. Jason Kitzmiller in sixth, Bryce Hogberg in seventh, Elio Castroneves eighth, Andy Jankowiak ninth, and Ryan Roulette in 10th. Cole Raz 11th, AJ Moyer 12th, Hunter Deshtil in 13th, Jason White, 14th, is the last car on the lead lap, and he's actually out of the lead draft as well. So he'll probably end up going a lap down if we have a long enough green flag run. He's 18 seconds off the lead currently. Ed Pompa, 15th, 1 lap down, still in the race. Jeff Schofield still in the race at 3 laps down in 16th. And then everybody, Alex Clubb also in the race in 17th, though I believe Clubb missed the initial start of the race, had to pull to pit road. That's why he's 5 laps down and just hasn't been able to get back on the lead lap as a result. Brian Dozet is 8 laps down, and I believe he just had an issue and dropped out of the race. Corey Day out in 19th, and everybody else that I'm going to read on this list is out of the race as well. Wallace Allen in 20th. Isabella Robusto will finish 21st. Scott Melton 22nd. Tim Baines 23rd. Brayton Laster 24th. 25th for Takuma Koga in his debut here in ARCA. Becca Monopoly 26th. Craig Bracken, who unfortunately had been transported to a local hospital. We haven't had any further information on him up to this point, so I'll try to keep you updated throughout the rest of our streams today on that situation. He did get assistance to get out of the car. He was walking, but they took him to a local hospital for further evaluation. He's going to end up finishing this race with a 27th place finish. Nolan Wilson Also collected in that incident finishes 28th, Amber Bulkin 29th, Garrett Mitchell 30th, Michael Maples 31st, Kyle Steckley 32nd, Dale Quarterly 33rd, Cody Dennison 34th, Willie Mullins 35th, Sean Core 36th, Thad Moffitt 37th, Kayla Costner 38th, 39th for Catherine Legg, and Eric Caudell 40th. Cletus McFarland has made his way to the Fox booth. Sleeves cut off and all. I guess I'll let you listen into more of the broadcast with that being said here. We'll take a quick break first as we're down to the final 20 laps of our ARCA Menards 200 here. The Ride the Dent 200 specifically at Daytona.
Main split second decision wasn't the right one. So after the third wreck I got caught up. Not my fault.
You had a lot of fun up until that moment. Are we going to see you back in an ARCA car?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I had the best time of my life. I've never felt more freedom than ripping in a pack of 40 car. It was amazing. Honestly, one of the most incredible experiences of my life. And I'm super bummed to be out. So I think I'm gonna make a revisit to Dega. You know, get my hot rod fixed
I
up.
don't think Daigle can handle Cletus
And I'll
McFarland.
own a Dega.
What do you think?
Okay, and I'm gonna cut my sleeves back even further, and I'll be there.
What surprised you the most about being here at Daytona? I know you did the test earlier last month, but what surprised you about it?
I would say what surprised me the most is the lack of control within the group. The amount of swerving going on was shocking.
Yeah, you could see it right
Just
there.
this shot right here. These guys are probably the best, left. And I'm not saying I was perfect, right?
The best left.
But I'm looking.
And you're right. They're the best left.
Listen, I'm looking out my window at this person next to me. I'm like, brother, keep your wheels straight. What the hell are you doing? Like, we're swerving left and right. And what the heck are you doing? Sorry. I don't know if that word's allowed. Anyway, but a lot of swerving, and I think that was ultimately the demise of my race. People just not keeping their steering wheel straight.
All right, Cletus, when you wrecked, we had an onboard camera.
I seen that.
You looked at the camera. I think we have a shot of it. And you weren't sure what it was that you said. You knew the camera was rolling.
Oh yeah, they had a live stream. I said sorry guys, because I heard there was like 50,000 people watching the in-car live stream. So I just wanted to say sorry to my fans. I told them, I said, listen, people, I'm going to Daytona to destroy that infield with a burnout after I win. You know what I mean? I said high expectations. Let's go for that infield. No, this one. That sucker would have looked like Supercross when I was known on this race, but didn't go my way. So I said sorry to the boys at home watching, supporting me, and we'll be back for Dega.
Cletus, we talked about you having 4 million followers. What can people find if they follow you and subscribe to your YouTube page?
Yeah, you type in Cletus anywhere, you'll find the greatest automotive, sensational, building, ripping, shifting gears, letting a rotator chip type of content you could ever imagine. You type in Cletus on any platform, it's coming up, and you're going to enjoy yourselves. That's all I got to say.
Hey, we've enjoyed watching you, your time here. Looking forward to Talladega, if you make it work.
Yeah, Talladega. I just want to give a shout out to my boy Squirrel McNutt for coming out here to support me, and looking forward to Dega.
Did you fly Consuelo down here?
Yeah, you can see it.
Oh!
Oh no!
Spin goes around. Hey,
Jake Finch as well.
Finch.
Two separate incidents there on that stack up.
Finch hard into the wall. A lot of contact for him. The caution is out for the 7th time.
7 cautions.
Too many.
That's tough,
Big impact. Tim Richmond looks like he got some flat tires before he made impact, so he got stopped.
It looked like the car just got away from Tim. Not sure exactly whether there may have been some contact.
I think it's
Jake.
that stack up.
Yeah.
Cletus's point here, everybody stacks up and then they start moving around, and then you get 3 or 4 separate incidents at one time.
Oh, that guy's got a Cletus shirt on. Guys, when you watch Cup, they're just
Two totally separate.
Totally separate, yeah.
At the same time.
Looks like Lamar Scott maybe in the back pushing Jake Finch. That's what turned Jake around.
One thing I was really impressed by is when you watch Cup, those guys are so tightly in line. Yeah, it's shocking, and it's tough to do that.
Jake Finch made it down to pit road, trying to fix up his car, see if he can continue as we're under caution once again. More ARCA Menards Series action coming your way after this.
Well, this is going to double them back up again, at least. They did start to get back to side-by-side racing right after Cletus joined the booth for about the last 2 to 3 laps or so. I'm interested to see if he's going to be in the booth all the way to the end of the race from here. We only have another 15 laps to go. This is our 7th caution. On the graphic on Fox, it said 6, but I believe it is the 7th. They stated 7 on the broadcast, at least, as well. One red flag, which was all the way back in the lap 4 crash, which was the first incident of the day. That was the big one that took out the biggest number of cars. 15 were collected in that crash, and they only got more violent through the first 4. Big impact for the rear of the race car for Jake Finch in the 25, and I don't know that he's necessarily going to continue on in this race. Tim Richmond, luckily for him, his tires actually went down to the roadblocks. And that stopped his car before getting down to the inside retaining wall, as he also had a spin in that crash. 2 separate spins at once. And the second spin was ahead of the spin that Tim Richmond had, which triggered the caution initially. Both Finch and Richmond have dropped off the lead lap. Again, Finch has a lot of damage to the back of his race car. Engine-wise, it seems to be fine, so maybe he could continue. I doubt he'll have enough speed to stay in the lead pack at the very least, and now he's off the lead lap. 13 cars are on the lead lap. Top 10 as listed. William Sawalich in the lead. LeVar Scott second. Brendan Queen third. Jason Kitzmiller fourth. Elio Castroneves is fifth, quietly, with all the damage he's endured in multiple wrecks. Cole Raz is 6th, Andy Jankowiak 7th, AJ Moyer 8th, Ryan Roulette 9th, and Hunter Deshtill is in 10th. That rounds out the top 10 here. If this is the last caution, this is going to be our final break of the race. You're listening live on KRC to the ARCA race at Daytona 2025 edition. And our first stream of the day as Speed Week continues here on KRC. My goodness. The winner will be the guy who crashed last. I didn't even realize that Castroneves was in the top 5 until I just read through the leaderboard, to be completely honest. That's insane. He's definitely got the most damage of any car that's currently on the lead lap. It'd be insane if he ends up winning this thing. Oh my goodness. Back to caution flag conditions here. Lap 67 of 80. We are winding a little bit closer to the finish. Once again, the rest of our start times for Speed Week as follows. If you want to tune back in for more action today, 3 p.m. Eastern, we will be live for NASCAR Cup Series final practice for tomorrow's Daytona 500. Our NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage will also end up beginning later on today at 5 p.m. Eastern. And tomorrow's Daytona 500 with the start time moved up for potential rain tomorrow afternoon, so that means our stream has been moved up an hour as well. We were going to go live 1 hour before the start of the race. That still will be the case. So 12:30 p.m. Eastern for tomorrow afternoon, we'll go live for the Daytona 500. Again, a special 1 hour pre-race. Our Cup Series race broadcast, we usually go live about a half hour to 45 minutes before the green. Earlier than we usually do for the lower series races, and that is because we have a full pre-race show. Give you guys my in-depth predictions, how I think certain drivers will perform throughout the course of that event based on how they've performed at track throughout the weekend, practice, qualifying, recent success or lack thereof for certain drivers at certain tracks. Obviously, that's going to change on a weekly basis. See if they get the 1 to go signal this time by. If they do that, we'll restart with 12 laps to go. One hour and 3 hours from now. Yep. Honestly, this race is going to get done a lot sooner than I thought it was going to, even with all the cautions we've seen. Cup practice might still begin at 3 p.m. Eastern, as advertised. 27 looked to be 3 wide middle. That was Tim Richmond who triggered his spin following the crash. Honestly, even with the flat tires, I'm so shocked that he was able to keep it off the inside wall with that slide. Usually, even when you lock up the tires and flat spot them like that, the car still takes a big enough beeline for the inside wall because you're carrying so much speed. But luck was on his side. Yeah, Andy Jankowiak's had a pretty good race in the 73. He started mid-pack, so he was one of the drivers I was surprised maybe the most that they missed that very first incident at the front of the field, which took 15 cars with it. Not all those 15 were eliminated at that point. I am curious to see anybody who might have been involved in that crash all the way back on lap 4 to see if they're still in the race. There's such a long list of names, I can't remember all that were involved there. I don't think anybody that was involved in that crash is still in it, though. Considering all the other incidents we had on shorter green flag runs in that area of the field as well. 12 laps left. Green flag is back in the air. Sawalich leads us to the green. He's on the inside of row 1. The outside row 1 car pulls quickly to the bottom to fill the gap. That was the 6 of LeVar Scott. Only 2 cars in the outside line right now in the top 6 or 7 positions, and everybody quickly fighting for the bottom of the racetrack and trying to keep from losing any ground on the restart. Still 2 cars up high that really need to get down to the bottom as quickly as they can, or they could be in danger of potentially falling out of the top 10 in this lead pack. And this late in the race, it would be dashing their chances in trying to win. Kitzmiller in the 97 is one of those 2 cars that are up there. Raz in the 76 is also right behind Kitzmiller. Nobody pulling out a line on the outside, both behind or in front of them to try to get that lane going. 57 going to pull out from the tail end of the lead lap. Trying to do something back there. The 67 kind of keeps peeking out on the straightaways, but I don't think he's committed to going to that outside lane quite yet. Castroneves slid up to 4th on the restart with Kitzmiller going backwards. Brendan Queen slides into the 3rd place position behind Scott Sawalich. We don't have many race statistics on our live leaderboard, so I'm not sure exactly how many laps have been led by Sawalich, but he has led for a large majority of the second half of this race. Ever since the restart right around lap 40 when he rocket shipped his way to the front of the field from the back of the lead lap at that point when there were still about 20 cars on the lead lap, he's led about every green flag lap since then. It might have the quickest car in the field of who we have remaining in this race. But if some of the drivers further back in line can tag team him and hang him out to dry, it is not impossible to use the draft to full effect to try to make the pass for the win. 10 laps left. Back straightaway, and already one move going to be made, and that is exactly what's going to happen. This happened way earlier than expected. With 9.5 laps to go. Pass for the lead for LeVar Scott. He pulled out a line as soon as they got to the exit of turn 2. Sawalich gets hung out to dry by almost everybody behind him. Has such a strong car, he's still side by side for 2nd. Castroneves is going to hesitate to peek back down to the bottom. Now he goes back to the top again. And for who we have left in this race, they're all going for the win with 9 to go. That time by at the line, Brendan Queen, who is left in the outside lane, gets credited with the lap lead. Castroneves riding in line just behind him after he pulled to the bottom initially, went back to the top that last time down the front straightaway. LeVar Scott, who initially was the first car to pull out a line and make the move on Sawalich to pass him for the lead, as soon as he was clear, pulled right back down to the bottom on the 18. Left the top open with still the momentum coming from behind. Probably didn't realize how many cars actually went with him, and that allowed for Brendan Queen to eventually take the lead by the end of that last lap. So now Queen is having to block 2 lanes at once as they circuit the exit of turn 4. I don't see this going well, but hopefully it does. And for who we have left in this race can make it an entertaining finish. 8 laps to go. And the ARCA opener at Daytona. Despite how the race has gone, there is still a prestige in winning at the World Center of Racing. We talked about it at the start of the stream. And we're about to see it unfold right here. They cut the commercial. Oh my goodness, they just cut the commercial. 8 laps left. Excuse me. I'm gonna mute the mic for a quick second here. We're good. I kind of forgot I could mute the mic. That's a little easier than me actually having to get up from my seat and leave the room. I was battling a cold there last week, and it's still kind of lingering in my throat in the sense where, well, I had laryngitis for like a week. A couple of weeks ago, I completely lost my voice for about 6 days, and that's still kind of like lingering. But for some reason, this is the first time in our live streams throughout the course of the week that I've had to take a couple of pauses to actually step away for a quick second. Been able to power through with really no problems. But yeah, full screen commercial break with less than 10 laps to go in this race. We had a bunch of caution laps to do that. I don't know why they chose now. Brendan Queen is the race leader. LeVar Scott second. Elio Castroneves third. Andy Jankowiak is fourth. William Sawalich fell back to fifth after losing the lead a couple of laps ago. Jason Kitzmiller is lined in sixth. AJ Moyer seventh. Cole Raz eighth. Ryan Roulette ninth. And Bryce Hogberg is 10th. Hunter Deschtel in 11th. Jason White 12th. Ed Papa 13th. Jeff Schofield 14th. Jake Fitch 15th. Alex Clubb 16th. Tim Richmond 17th. Brian Doza 18th. Isabella Robusto 19th. Lawless Allen rounds out the top 20. Tim Veens 21st. Corey Day 22nd. Scott Melton 23rd. Brayton Laster 24th. Takuma Koga 25th. Becca Monopoly 26th. Craig Bracken 27th. Nolan Wilson 28th. Amber Balkan 29th. And Garrett Mitchell, Cletus McFarland aka 30th. Michael Maples 31st. Kyle Steckley 32nd. Dale Quarterly 33rd. Cody Dennison 34th. Willie Mullins 35th. Sean Court 36th. Thad Moffitt 37th. Caleb Costner 38th. Catherine Legg 39th. Aaron Caudell rounds out our 40-car field. And again, 13 cars on the lead lap. And they're all but one of which, actually, let's see here. The top 10 of the 13 that are on the lead lap don't have damage, or not enough so that it's dropped them out of the lead pack. So 10 cars very much in the battle for the win. As they come back from commercial break, we have just 4.5 laps to go, and Castroneves has made a pass, and he's up to second. Riding in line behind Brendan Queen. Andy Jankowiak on the outside with Jason Kitzmiller, two drivers who have competed for the win at Daytona in this ARCA race the last couple of seasons, trying to work together to take down maybe the bigger names in the field of who we have left between Queen and Castroneves. Just progressing forward throughout the course of the day here for Elio, and we'll see if he can get the win. We already saw one driver on the back straightaway make a move from second to take the lead in these final 10 laps. It happened with 9 laps to go, and that was when LeVar Scott and Brendan Queen pulled from second and third out of line on the bottom to get by the guy who probably had the fastest car in the field, and that same guy of William Sawalich is still in 5th place. He's the 4th car in line down on the bottom of the track. Still 3 cars are in the top groove of the racetrack of the top 10 in contention for the win. 3 laps to go. If we get to the final lap and a caution comes out, then that would end the race. Similar rules applied to the top 3 series at the NASCAR level. So this is definitely the finish of the race if we get that far. Kitzmiller is going to leave Jankowiak in the dust. He doesn't want to work with him anymore. Feels like he's not going to be able to make enough of a run to get to the front. Pulling out of line to make that pass, even with a couple of cars going with them, they continue to lose more ground with the lack of numbers in the outside lane. Brendan Queen leads down the back straightaway. Castroneves is cleared. Top 4 cars, in fact, clear now on the bottom. Side by side from 5th on back. And those that are running side by side with the side draft are losing time to the top 4. So Walich is in that top 4, back end of the line, probably the faster of those group of cars at the front. But being the last car in the line, is he going to be able to make a move necessary to try to get the win? 2 laps to go for Brendan Butterbean Queen. If the second group can get single file quickly, they're close enough to get a big run in the draft on the group ahead of them. Third place, LeVar Scott is backing up to try to get a run of his own. And he's going to have help with the 18. The 18 goes wide early. Scott does not go with him. Kitts Miller, who broke away from the second group of cars, has caught the 18 of Sawalich. Scott in the 6 moves wide to try to block Sawalich. Great crossover move by William. Pulls clear for third place. 2 more cars to go. Kitts Miller stayed with him every step of the way. White flag in the air, 1 lap to go for Brendan Queen. Final lap of the race. Castroneves is now trying to bridge a gap between himself and the leader. Looks to the outside. Couple cars went with him. Castroneves goes back to the bottom. Sawalich to the outside of the 82 of Castroneves for second. And he is clear off turn 2. William Sawalich is going to have a run down the back straightaway. Queen got too far ahead of the pack. Last lap, back straightaway, headed for turn 3. Cars scattering around in the middle of the pack. Castroneves is going backwards. Can Sawalich get one more big run? He doesn't have any cars extremely close to the back bumper. He's going to have to create the run by himself. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Queen goes high to block. The 18 with a second win into the tri-oval, but it's too late. And Brendan Queen is going to win the ARCA opener at Daytona. William Sawalich in second, Jason Kitts-Miller third, LeVar Scott fourth, and Elio Castroneves rounds out the top 5. And they're wrecking after the checkered flag. Castroneves and Raz involved in a violent impact there going into turn 1 well after the checkered flag, which is only fitting for how this race has gone. Congratulations, though, to Brendan Queen. He has survived, and he has won at the Daytona International Speedway. I tried to do the best I could for commentary purposes, but my voice is still not back to 100% from laryngitis from a couple weeks ago, but I did the best I could, and I greatly appreciate everybody that we had tuned in for this stream. Castroneves is laughing it off with the AMR safety crew, so it looks like he is okay. He finished 5th, Raz was 6th, and they both crashed in turn 1 well after the checkered flag. Brendan Queen. Move of the race was him and LeVar Scott tag teaming to get by Sawalich, in which Sawalich had fallen out of the lead, fell back to 5th. William did a great job zigging and zagging his way through the traffic to get back to 2nd and in contention for the win there coming to the checker. But it was too little too late. And Queen having the lead for the entirety of those last 8 laps was enough to hold on and get his first career ARCA win. And it comes, again, at the Daytona International Speedway. His first trip to Daytona. He's got the rookie stripes on the back of it, and he wins. He did a great job. You have to have some sort of luck to miss the incidents, but he ran in the top 5 for most of the race. He qualified top 10. He had a fast car, and he made the most of it. And despite the lack of experience, compared to a few drivers that finished around him in the running order, like a Sawalich, like a Kitts Miller, LeVar Scott, veterans of ARCA. For Scott Miller, Jakowiak, who was in the top 10, he held them all off. He made the right blocks, he made the clean ones. And believe it or not, with how this race ended, even with the crash after the checker, we actually ended this race under green. And on a double-digit green flag lap run to the checkered as well. I believe we went 14 laps on that final green flag run, the second longest green flag run of the race. 7 cautions. And the burnout is on full display on the front stretch at Daytona for Brendan Queen. We saw him have some good runs on the short tracks in the Truck Series ranks at North Wilkesboro last season. I believe he ran a couple more as well. Winning the ARCA opener at Daytona, I think we're going to see more of Brendan Queen in the NASCAR ranks here in years to come. Great short track racing talent. I believe in the Cars Tour, if I'm not mistaken. He now has the spotlight and another win to add on his resume in a stock car, winning at Daytona. You'll get to hear from him. You'll probably hear from Elio Castroneves. I would assume we'll get an interview from him as well. And we will be live for that. We'll go through the finishing order here very shortly. But first, we have to hear from our race winner.
We got Butterbean, we have Cletus. What a day! It's like somebody help me just get this helmet off. I want to sell.
Can't get the helmet off. I'm sure Butterbean's got some fans in that
gonna take his head off.
Daytona grandstand.
Look at that's what he's worried about for winning. You gotta get that hat and sunglasses.
He's got to look cool winning.
Got that ball a little bit.
Yeah.
What a day in the booth up here, Phil. We got some person.
Best mullet in the field here.
Butterbean Queen is your winner for the ARCA Menard Series race at Daytona. He's still unhooking himself. There he is. Amanda Busick is there.
Oh, and Jamie, and what it is, a scene down here. He's going to go greet his team. There's the American flag. He was asking for that as he was still on the track. He told his team, I don't know what to do now. His team effectively told him, bring it back down to the start-finish line and burn it down. Brendan Queen, winner here at Daytona. Brendan, they say that Daytona owes no one. Why was she yours today?
Oh my Lord, V-Nation, baby! We brought the mullet to the ARCA Series, baby. We're getting to the Waffle House tonight, but all glory to God. Thank you for keeping us safe. I mean, I'm just a late model guy that worked hard to get this shot, and I didn't think this would be where the first win came, but we're going to take it. Now, I got to thank the whole Staten family, bestrepair.net, everybody on board for that family that gave me this opportunity. Obviously, my parents did a lot when I was racing late models, but this group right here, they deserve this, baby. I know I had the tough shoes to fill with Zillich taking over. Taking over from Zillich, but I hope this makes them happy that they signed me, and I hope this is the first of many, but I got to thank also Driven Sunglasses for coming on board. I don't know where they went, but I'll be wearing them in Victory Lane. ARCA Series, Menards, everybody involved, Pinnacle Racing, the whole Webb family. I don't know. We're going to the Waffle House and we're going to party it up and some chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk.
Oh, man.
The drink of champions.
Best interviews I have heard.
We're gonna have some chocolate milk now.
He's gonna take that big trophy, pick right on there.
You got it. Some waffles.
Fantastic interview. We'll be back to Daytona. Here for more of our competitors from today's ARCA Menard Series race as Butterbean burns it down as the winner.
We definitely have some characters in the ARCA series, I'll tell you that much. Well, you heard it from Cletus in the booth. He'll be back during the Talladega race. I kind of figured that was going to be the case. I can definitely see him running the super speedway schedule at the ARCA level. Maybe we'll see him back again next year as well. We'll go through the full field finishing order while they cut back to commercial. If we get any more interviews before they go off the air and before we go off the air, you'll get to listen to that as well. Brendan Queen with the race win. I'm not sure how many laps he led. Again, ARCA's website doesn't show any detailed statistics like NASCAR.com does during the actual NASCAR sanctioned races for the top 3 series. But nonetheless, Brendan Queen is the winner. And we did finish under our regulation length of 200 miles, 80 laps. Queen with the win. William Sawalich in second. Jason Kitzmiller third. LeVar Scott fourth. Elio Castroneves fifth. Cole Raz sixth. AJ Moyer seventh. Andy Jankowiak eighth. Ryan Roulette ninth. And Bryce Hogberg rounds out the top 10. Hunter Deschtel ends up in 11th. Jason White in 12th. Ed Pompa 13th. Jeff Schofield 14th. Jake Finch in 15th. Alex Cobb 16th. Tim Richmond 17th, Lawless Allen 18th, Tim Veens 19th, Brian Dozit rounds out the top 20, Isabella Robusto 21st, Corey Day 22nd, Scott Milton 23rd, Brayton Laster 24th, Takuma Koga 25th, Becca Monopoly 26th, Craig Bracken 27th, Nolan Wilson 28th, Amber Balkan 29th, Cletus McFarland 30th, Michael Maples 31st, Kyle Steckley 32nd, Dale Quarterly 33rd, Cody Dennison 34th, Willie Mullins 35th, Sean Core 36th, Thad Moffitt 37th, Caleb Costner 38th, Catherine Lake 39th, and Eric Caudell rounds out our 40-car full ARCA field for today's race. 13 cars finished on the lead lap, and we only had 16 cars of the 40 finish the race. And in that last battle for the win, the top 10 all finished within 0.7 of a second. And that was all 10 that was in that lead pack. Brennan Queen with the win. Congratulations, Brendan Butterbean Queen. Huge shout out, by the way. I haven't mentioned it. I should have mentioned this a long time ago, but huge shout out to not only you guys watching first and foremost in the chat, but I'm going to give a shout out to Cletus McFarland as well, because I don't think I would have had the viewership that we had at one point when he was still in the race without him. So I'm not going to act like this is all me by any means here today. But you guys came out in droves to cheer on your favorite driver, and that's awesome to see in and of itself, let alone the fact that you checked out the channel here today. And if it is your first time viewing, again, we do have live commentary streams every NASCAR race weekend, just like this. More to come here today. Caitlin Vitzi is with our second place finisher, William Sawalich.
Anything else you could do at the end?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't anticipate it being that long. I mean, that was a pretty long time in the car. But, I mean, it got me ready for tonight's race, and we had a fast Starkey Toyota Camry tonight. So can't thank the JGR guys enough. Just wish we had a little bit more there. Just learning all I could.
Thanks for your time, William Sawalich. Still has work to do. We'll be running double duty, obviously, here at Daytona, guys.
Thank you, Caitlin. William Sawalich, by the way, will roll off 5th in the NASCAR Xfinity Series.
Yeah, triple duty for Sawalich. Ran the truck race last night. Doubleheader for himself today with ARCA finishing second. Heartbreaker to have as quick of a car as he did not to get the win. But he's got another chance and good equipment in the Xfinity race a little later on. That will be 300 miles, 120 laps, and of course our Daytona 500 still to come tomorrow. Again, I greatly appreciate everybody that is tuned in for the stream, whether you are new or returning viewers. A lot of new viewers, obviously, on the channel. This is going to be a stream record, I do believe. I don't think it's going to be a stream record for views. We are close, but I think we still have a couple cup races which have topped this. By far, of the 3 times that we've done the ARCA opener at Daytona, this is the most viewed ARCA race we've had on the channel. And I greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in. We are on the road to 10,000 subscribers to hopefully get there before the end of this NASCAR season. And great appreciation, support for me. Again, I can't truly state it enough. And again, congratulations, obviously, to Butterbean Queen getting the win. And a huge shout out to Cletus McFarland as well. I'll try to tag him on Instagram or something. I doubt he'll recognize it, but I owe him a huge thanks. Thanks for everybody tuning in. I will see you guys in a little bit. We still have 2 more streams today, 3 more this weekend, and obviously this is the first points-paying weekend of the NASCAR season, so we have many more weekends to come here this year and streams just like this. Although this is our only ARCA race we'll be doing commentary for. I would do Talladega, but I'm going to be there, so I obviously can't do the commentary for that race because we have done Dega the last couple, last year. But last year was the first year I didn't go to Talladega in 5 years. So that was just kind of a rare occurrence. I'll be back at Dega again this year. So I won't be able to do commentary for that one. Otherwise, I would. But greatly appreciate everybody that tuned in for this one. Again, as always, I can go on and on and on. But we got a couple more streams still to go. I got to get something to eat here in between streams. Thank you all. Have a good next half hour or so. See you for Cup Series final practice. And obviously the Xfinity race at 5 p.m. Eastern. Again, our Daytona 500 coverage tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Are the start times listed. It's up in the community tab already. Hit the like button if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe for more live commentary, NASCAR content every NASCAR race weekend, including streams like this. Thank you for watching.